WNYT, Albany, New York.
An inside look, including a visit to stately Met Manor. All today on NBC Sports. NBC Sports presents Major League Baseball, an inside look at baseball and a preview of today's Game of the Week. Brought to you by K-Care, where quality automotive parts and service are Kmart priced. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Costas. Welcome to a big day of baseball on NBC. We're at Fenway Park in Boston, and at this ballpark, and a beautiful May day with the Sox in front of the American League East won't get you in a baseball frame of mind, then nothing will. Last night, a typical Fenway battle. The Red Sox bested the A's 8-7. Evans, Rice, and Yaz all homered, 4 base hits for Rice. Balls were rattling off the green monster, guys being thrown out trying to take extra bases. We could have more of the same today because the two pitchers have been struggling. Bob Ojeda 1-4 for the Red Sox, and Bo McLaughlin 0-1 goes for Oakland. Another big game in Atlanta where the Braves lead the NL West. The Phillies are there. Let's join Joe Garagiola.
Here in Atlanta, slightly overcast, but it looks like we will have baseball, and it's the Philadelphia Phillies against the amazing Atlanta Braves, the first place Atlanta Braves. And with me is the manager, Joe Torre. Joe, when you manage against a ball club, you notice certain things. What did you notice about this ball club that you said, hey, I've got to get rid of that?
Well, you know, the few games I did manage against them, Joe, I just had a feeling that when they got behind in the ball game, they just really didn't battle back as much as their ability should have allowed them to. And I think last night was an example how they've changed quite a bit, because with the kind of firepower we have in the middle of the lineup, you know, with Murphy and Horner and Chambliss and Washington, I don't care, especially playing in this ballpark. You're never out of a ball game. And, you know, we fall behind 5-0 last night and bounce back, win the game 7-6, and this is the way we've been playing all year.
They said in New York you couldn't communicate with the players and they had to make a change. Now, here in Atlanta, they say you're a great communicator and a great motivator. What school of motivation did you go to on your
winter?
Yeah.
Nowhere. I just, you know, these players are responding very well. The attitude on this ball club is great. I just felt that they needed a sense of direction. When we got to spring training, we told them how to play the game. We felt the way we wanted the game played. We wanted them to play it that way, and it worked for them. We were lucky. You know, we won 18 games in spring training. When you tell them this, and this is going to work for them, and it does work, that's the luck part of managing. So now it's fun for them. They look forward to coming to the park, and they expect to win when they get here.
And they are winning. You're in first place, so good luck to you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Now let's go back to Byron Day.
Okay, Joe, thank you very much. You know, from Cobb to Cash, Colavito, and K-Line, the Detroit Tigers have always had a bunch of power hitters. Well, this past week they reeled off 8 straight wins, and some of their power came from a very unlikely source. And that leads our news of the week.
The Tigers' Larry Herndon is a lifetime .267 hitter who's hit only 24 home runs in his 7-year career. But this week, in 4 consecutive trips to the plate over 2 games, Herndon crashed 4 home runs to tie a Major League record. Lamar Hoyt now stands 1 short of equaling his win total from all of last year. He picked up his 8th victory against no defeats in beating the Rangers last Tuesday night. Hoyt is now baseball's winningest pitcher. Many Twin fans were upset with Calvin Griffith. They felt like he gave away too much when he sent Doug Corbett and Rob Wilfong to the Angels for minor leaguer Tom Brunansky. But so far, Brunansky has fit nicely into Twin plans. He's blasted 3 home runs and is playing great defense. In the if it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all department, the Yankees' leading RBI man, Dave Winfield, was placed on the 15-day disabled list with a pulled left hamstring. Winfield became the 21st Yankee to have an injury or illness this year that have kept players out of the lineup a total of 91 games.
Another injury note here, this time in Kansas City. Dennis Leonard, pitching against the Rangers last night, caught a line drive off his pitching hand. He's broken a couple of fingers. Doctors and team officials are determining if he'll come back this season. When we return, we're going to take you out to the old ballpark, and there's a lot more going on than just baseball. It's called business ball. We're back here at Fenway Park in Boston. Today is Helmet Day here at Fenway Park. Just one of the promotional ideas the Red Sox and other clubs have. They use to get folks into the seats out here. You know, it's a brand new ball game. If you have a good marketing program, you can be a winner on the field and at the box office.
Come to Bat Day. Come to Helmet Day. In fact, when you come to the ballpark these days, you usually see more than just a ball game. Marketing has become a fact of baseball life. But just how much does it mean at the gate?
Frank, how would you define a good promotion?
I'd say a good promotion would be a promotion that would bring, on any given day, an additional 20% the people into the stadium. And maybe dollar-wise, maybe you'd get another $45,000 to $50,000.
Dollar-wise, the most successful promotion we have is the fireworks show that we have either July 4th or as close to July 4th as possible. And we spend $15,000 to $20,000 on the fireworks, but it brings in usually an extra $100,000.
We figured that we're looking at least a 25% bump in attendance that we see in our advance sales as well as our walk-up the night of the game.
So promotion is very profitable, but there are still some costs involved. Giveaway items such as bats can cost a team as much as $2.45 a piece. On the other hand, funny nose glasses cost only 59 cents each. And when the costs get to be too prohibitive, teams will turn to local sponsors. Frank, is this an example of corporate sponsorship?
This is an example. This is a tote bag, and Byron, it was tailored for the women for Ladies' Day. And it was so expensive that we went out to a local sponsor who was a sponsor of the Phillies and had them actually pick up half the tab for us. So this went to all the women.
Funny nose glasses night at Seattle was bizarre. Gaylord Perry's historic 300th victory drew almost 10,000 fewer fans to the Kingdom.
There were a lot of people that were wondering if we were all dealing, if all our oars were in the water with it. But we had our largest crowd of the year with 37,000. We want to get a lot of people in the ballpark very, very early in the year, in April and May, when it's difficult to do anywhere in the country. But we want to expose our product to the fans as quickly as we can and generate some momentum. If anybody would like to purchase 10,000 funny nose glasses, why, we'll discuss it real quick.
It's true the promotions put fans in the seat, but what about the baseball purists? The guy who says, I don't need a bat day or a hat day or some fuzzy character to bring me to the ballpark.
The majority of the people want the entertainment package. People are not dumb. There are a lot of other things they can spend their money on.
I think baseball today, you really have to market your product. You just cannot put a sign out in front of the stadium and say game tonight.
Well, Abner Doubleday would never recognize his product. Today's baseball is entertainment in a big league way. All right, so promotion can play a large part in the financial success of any professional team. But what happens when that team is placed in an economically depressed area, such as Detroit? One of the more interesting attendance stories is in Detroit, where the unemployment rate is 20.5%. That means there's a shortage of money, right? Well, the Tigers have drawn more than 376,000 paying customers, which is 60,000 more than for the same period last season. I think the most significant thing about the numbers we just saw on the screen is the fact that Detroit has yet to have a promotion this year. In fact, you could say that the best promotion is playing winning baseball. When we return, Bob Costas will be here to tell us what a rough life Met manager George Bamberg and his coaches are leading out on Long Island. We'll be back.
Last night at the Astrodome, the Mets lost to Don Sutton and the Astros. That makes 16 of the last 19 games in Houston that the Mets have lost. Yeah, life on the road is tough, but guys in Met uniforms really mean it when they talk about home, sweet home. Manager George Bamberger and his coaches have guided the Mets to a strong start in 1982. But oh, the pressure of handling a big league ball club, communicating, deliberating, agonizing. A fella needs a place to relax, to get away from it all. Whispering Pines on Long Island, owned by sportsman Walter Cook Jr. While Cook is no relation to the fabulously wealthy John Beresford Tipton, he has been making Met managers and coaches feel like millionaires for some time now. His home is their home. 4 baseball men under one palatial roof.
Hey, George, how are you? Bob, how are you? Welcome to our humble home. A nice little chalet. Oh, yeah, very nice.
Well, this is a typical gathering on a Monday morning here at the Bamberger household in Whispering Pines. George has called the meeting to order around the breakfast table. Is this pretty much what it's like day after a ball game?
Yeah, we get up, have a little breakfast. Frank does the cooking, and Jimmy and I take a walk. We head to the ballpark and come back at night, sit in the library, and watch TV.
Jim, if I got up and walked away and you could all let your hair down, would there be a little arguing and second-guessing going on around this table?
No, you won't find any second-guessing. because I think all of us have been in the game long enough to know that there's got to be one guy make the decisions. And the reason we're able to live together and spend all the time together is we try not to second guess the other guy. We just do our thing, and this is George's ball club, and we want it to be that way.
What about ball players, Met players, guys on other teams? You catch a ribbing for this living arrangement?
Well, I think most every day you hear someone saying, how's everything at the mansion? Is the pool ready yet? Because I think some of the guys who have been on the Mets for a few years have been out here before.
Who decided who got what rooms? Did you come in as the manager and say, you go here, and you go there?
No, I just think we more or less grabbed. This is it. It's a 30-room mansion, 15 acres of property, and a swimming pool, and you name it, we got it. In other words, we live like a millionaire and don't have two nickels rubbed together.
Some of the rooms attest to owner Cook's hunting prowess, and on indoor safari, even 6'8" Frank Howard meets his match. But don't get the idea that any of this has gone to our heroes' heads. Regular guys to the end. When it's time to go to work, the fellas carpooling. Just like the average Joe.
Shea Stadium, please.
Hey. By the way, Earl Weaver, if you're watching, Jim Fry and George Bamberger, who used to coach under you in Baltimore, have a message. They know how much you like to tend to those tomatoes out in the bullpen. They know you're going to retire at the end of this year. If you want a permanent gardening job, handling the full 15 acres at Whispering Pines, George and Jim say come on over and apply anytime you want. That'll do it for Major League Baseball, an inside look. Coming up next, either the A's and the Red Sox at Fenway or the Phillies and the Braves in Atlanta on NBC.
Here in Atlanta, this ballpark is known as a hitter's park, but that man, Mike Schmidt, he can hit them out of airports. And he'll be doing all he can to try to snap a 4-game losing streak that the Phillies find themselves in today. And on the other side, Dale Murphy. He's part of the 1-2 punch that has really helped these Atlanta Braves find their way into first place, and that's where they are today. A big day of baseball here on NBC this afternoon. NBC Sports presents Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today from Atlanta, Fulton County Stadium, it's the Philadelphia Phillies against the Atlanta Braves. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Lowenbrow. When you want the taste of a truly great beer, there's really only one. Tonight, let it be Lowenbrow. And by Ford and your Ford dealer, who invite you to test drive the 1982 Ford cars and trucks. And by State Farm Insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. And by Right Guard. The more you sweat, the more protection you get. That's what it was like when the Atlanta Braves set the record 13 in a row to open the season. The fans were happy, the players were happy. They got pennant fever in a hurry here in Atlanta. And these Atlanta Braves right now are still in first place, led by that man, manager Joe Torre. Well, we have a game scheduled between the Phillies and the Atlanta Braves, but as you can see, it is raining here in Atlanta. Both clubs took batting practice, no infield practice. The rains came, and we've got a bit of a delay. Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Garagiola, and it looks like we will have baseball if the weatherman is right. He said that it was 30% chance of rain. We've about had 30% chance of rain already, so with a delay, we will have baseball. Some of you have been waiting for the Oakland and Boston game. We will be getting you to that game. We understand that the weather is fine in Boston, so there will be baseball. If there's no game here or a longer delay, we'll send you to the Boston-Oakland game, and as soon as they resume back here, we'll be back here in Atlanta to see the Phillies and the Braves. So there will be baseball this afternoon. We'll be talking to some of the players. We'll have some highlights for you, so you stay with us, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Suppose your loved one's heart and breathing stopped unexpectedly. Would you know what to do? The answer is CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation.
Don't stand by helplessly while a loved one is dying.
Help save a life. Learn the life-saving techniques of CPR. Call your local chapter of the American Red Cross or the American Heart Association for information about CPR training.
Learn the life-saving skills of CPR and help save a loved one's life. Baseball cares.
The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball.
Hello, I'm Dave Bristol, third base coach for the Philadelphia Phillies, and this is my young son, Lance. 2 years ago, we gave the starting lineup for the San Francisco Giants. Today, for the Phillies, playing right field, Bobby Dernier, better known as White Lightning. And Lance, who's hitting second?
My favorite player, Pete Rose, because he hustles.
Hitting third and playing third base, Mike Smith. Hot-hitting Gary Matthews is playing left field and hitting fourth. Bo Diaz, who leads the Phillies in home runs and RBIs, catching and hitting fifth. Gary Maddox, the Secretary of Defense, is playing center field today. Manny Trillo is playing second base and hitting eighth. Ivan De Jesus, the shortstop. And Lance, who's our starting pitcher?
Mike Krukow.
Fans, I hope you just enjoy the Phillies winning today's game.
Well, the ground crew, as you can see, are in action. They're removing the tarp, and these fans, they had a good crowd on hand here, some 25,000 last night. Saw the Braves come from behind. Phillies jumped out to a 5-0 lead. These Braves bounced back, which is a thing they've been doing all year. And these fans are turning out here. As you can see, the ground crew really doing a good job. Those are really the unsung people of baseball, and I guess I got a soft spot in my heart going back to 1942 in Springfield, Missouri, when I was part of a grounds crew there, my first start in baseball. So these are the guys that work hard. You only see them during rainouts. Now, we have good weather in Boston, so many of you will be watching the Oakland-Boston game. Should be a dandy. We'll be sending some of you to expect to see this game to watch that game. We'll be giving you reports. We'll be keeping you up to date as to what's going to be going on, and we'll have baseball for you here all afternoon on NBC. The starting pitchers were Krukow for the Phillies, and it'll be McWilliams for the Atlanta Braves. The ground crew getting the tarp off. It'll be about maybe, I would say, a half hour or so before we can get that field in shape. Right now, Tony is on the Phillies bench, and he's got some fellas he's going to talk to. I think it's Pat Corrales, another unsung, underpaid farmer catcher. Tony.
All right, Joe. You didn't hear Joe, Pat, but he just called you underpaid, unsung former catcher. He sticks up for you guys. You ever notice that in our telecast?
Catcher's got to stick together.
Hey, listen, let's go back to last night's ball game. The Atlanta Ball Club, everything they do seems to be right. Christensen seemed to be breezing along pretty well last night. All of a sudden, those little flares started dropping out to left field. There really wasn't a whole lot as a manager that you could do, because Larry really had pretty good stuff, it looked like.
He had great stuff last night. It's just unlucky, really. I mean, they couldn't have thrown the ball and placed it any better than they placed it last night. Of course, if, we still talk about if we would have made that double play that Benedict hit to third base, and Manny just forgot who was running and didn't complete the double play. That might have been a big difference in the ball game right there.
Pat, last year you spent your time, of course, in the Texas Rangers organization.
Welcome to those of you who are supposed to be watching the Phillies and the Braves. We understand that it's raining in Atlanta. Here at Fenway Park, Bob Costas along with Sal Bando. You're looking at Davey Lopes, the A's second baseman, who's staring at Clete Boyer for the sign from the third base coaching box. Nobody out. Ricky Henderson, who singled, is on first base. Top of the first inning. Strike two, 1-2 to Lopes.
Bobby Ojeda must have a very good move to first, because it's unlike Henderson not to be running, and Davey Lopes has given him 3 opportunities to run, taking 2 strikes, so he's got a very good move.
Clete Boyer with the signs. Henderson still not going. That's outside, 2-2. Davey Lopes, over the last 3 seasons with the Dodgers, hit .370 against left-handers, .219 against right-handers.
Bob, I think we're going to see Henderson run at this pitch. 2-2 pitch. It's a good time for him to go.
There he goes. Change-up is a called third strike, and they don't even throw. Lopes is out, and Henderson goes in without a play for his 40th stolen base in 42 games.
Well, he picked the right pitch to go. As you see, it's an off-speed ball. He's got his head down. He's not even looking to see what Davey Lopes does.
Johnson.
head-first slide, which isn't advantageous in this, as much as he steals, to be sliding that way. There are a lot of injuries.
He favors the head-first slide because he feels it doesn't break your momentum, that you get there a split second faster going head-first.
I agree with him, except you're so vulnerable to injuries and hands, getting stepped on, and that's going to affect being able to play every day.
Cliff Johnson, the designated hitter, who homered into the net over the Green Monster last night to give the A's an early lead. Henderson is going, trying to steal third, and he's got that too.
I don't know if he was able to pick up the pitches or not, if he's got the signs of Gedman, but again, he had a good jump. He wasn't standing still. He had a nice walking lead and had a little momentum going to third and was stole it easily. As you see Carney trying to get in position to make the catch here. He's under his throw. It's a good move.
Henderson now, with 41 steals, has been thrown out 10 times. Only twice has he been thrown out trying to steal second. The other times have been on attempts at steals of third.
As you saw in that replay, that he was moving going towards third, and he wasn't standing still before he took off.
Red Sox infield will concede the run with one out, and the breaking ball misses. A ball and a strike to Cliff Johnson.
I would have to say if Cliff Johnson has one strength, it is against left-handed pitching. He is a notorious hitter against left-handers.
2 balls and 1 strike. Last night, Cliff was at first base. And in all fairness to him, he will help you with the bat, and he will drive you nuts on the base paths and in the field. Not only is Cliff somewhat ineffective in those regards, but he's also dangerous. He's always bumping into people, knocking them over. He's such a big guy.
He's a lovable
Keep him out of your way, I think you're better off. Broken bat, and it winds up foul. At least I think he broke the stick. Sounded like it.
Cliff is very thankful that they have the designated hitter rule in the American League. Fielding is not one of his attributes.
17 homers a year ago in the split season. Billy Martin's got some lineup problems now. The infield was never the strongest suit for the A's, and now 2/3 of that great outfield is on the bench, with Murphy and Armas hurt. Johnson's bat evidently is okay. Stays in with the same lumber. 2-2. Henderson at third. 1 out. Top of the first. No score. Joe Rudy is on deck. Full count.
Well, they're trying to work him inside here for the strikeout. And if you're going to pitch Cliff anywhere in this ballpark, you've got to get it inside because of his long arms. He can extend, and anything away from him, he's going to have the opportunity to be able to hit it up there on the monster.
Cliff evidently with something in his eye. And the home plate umpire, Russ Goetz, offers him a handkerchief to dab at it. Goetz is the home plate umpire. Dale Ford at first. Rich Garcia at second base. And Don Denkinger is at third. Garcia involved in a little controversy last night. Gave A's coach Charlie Metro the heave-ho. Payoff pitch with a man at third and 1 out. That'll get him home unless Dwight Evans can come on quickly, which he can't. A little blue pit for Johnson. And the A's have the 1-0 lead as Henderson trots home.
Well, Cliff did a good job there. I'm sure he was protected for the inside part of the plate. He just stuck his bat out and made contact and protecting the plate and just served it out into right field, right over the second baseman's head.
Go, Rudy.
So this is Billy Martin's favorite scenario. Ricky Henderson opens the game with a walk or a hit, steals a couple of bases, trots home on a blue. Word from Atlanta, still raining there. If and when it stops, those of you who were counting on seeing that game will be taken back to Joe and Tony. Joe Rudy playing right field in Armas's absence and hitting cleanup. A ball 2 and 1-0. Rudy at just 222 with a homer and 6 RBIs.
Joe played here with Boston last year and was really their premier pinch hitter coming off the bench. He hasn't had a chance to play much this year, especially right field. It's an unfamiliar position to him.
Ojeda was staring at Ricky Henderson at first and very concerned. With Cliff Johnson over there, I think he can breathe a bit easier.
You know, most managers don't really try to get too fancy in this ballpark, and I think it's a mistake. I think it's good to make things happen, such as hit and run and steal, and everybody sits back and waits for the big home run.
talking with Tony Kubek about that earlier in the week, and he said that psychologically, a lot of teams, even those who have had success running, are taken out of that game in this ballpark because you tend to wait for the beginning, but Billy Martin not falling into that trap.
Well, you just can't let that wall intimidate you, and you change what your strength is offensively. And if it's running, you've got to continue to run.
Ojeda chasing Johnson back, and Cliff was a little slow getting there.
Cliff didn't even realize he was coming to first base. Why? The pitcher's already made his move towards first, and Cliff is still standing there.
Talking about not letting the wall intimidate you. You've got a southpaw starting here for Boston, and for years the wisdom was lefties just can't win in this place. Talk more about that after this pitch, which just misses outside. 3 balls and a strike.
I know as a hitter, you can't be intimidated, and if you spray the ball, you've got to continue to swing that way and not trying to pull the pitches away. The trouble is, hitters get in here, they see the short wall, and they start pulling everything, and it takes them right out of their rhythm and right out of their form.
Johnson a lead from first. The 3-1 pitch with 1 out, and the A's in front, 1-0. This is ball 4. Runners at first and second. In your experience, Sal, and you always hit extremely well in this ballpark, did left-handers have a tendency to change their style here and get away from the things which previously had been effective for them?
I think what happens as a hitter, the left-handers eliminate the pitch inside. So as you go up to the plate as a hitter, you don't worry about the ball inside because they're afraid to throw it in there. So you really hang over the plate and you concentrate about the pitch away from you, which eliminates the things that you have to look for. And it makes it a lot easier when you're only going to look one part of the plate as compared to both.
Pitching coach Lee Stang trying to settle Ojeda down. Just about a capacity crowd at Fenway. It's helmet day here, as Byron Day told us in the pregame show. Still doesn't quite measure up to the all-time greatest promotion. Funny nose and glasses night in Seattle. Did you see that?
I did. I just, who was it after? Was it after a certain person, or they just...
Well, it did have a certain Groucho look about it, didn't it?
Yeah, I guess it did. I wasn't sure, if it was after Groucho.
Yeah,
I know a lot of players it could have been after.
I think that's pretty much it. I think it was the Marx Brothers.
I thought it might have been Wes Stock, the pitching coach. Used to do pitching coach at Seattle.
Jeff Newman, the first baseman and the number 5 hitter, takes the strike from Ojeda. Ojeda was 6-2 a year ago and a decent ERA of just over 3 runs a game. This year, 1-4, and his ERA is near 6. Trailing 1-0. First and second, 1 out. Catcher Mike Heath is on deck. Hit foul, and Ojeda is quickly ahead, 0-2. Bob Stanley is already warming up in the Red Sox bullpen. Ralph Houck has been known for going to the quick hook this year with the Sox pitching staff, and a few of his pitchers, notably Mike Torres, didn't accept that at first, but Houck is such an acknowledged master at handling pitching staffs, and the success has been so good this year in Boston, few people are arguing now.
I think Larry Gurr of the Kansas City said it best. He said they get paid as much as he does, so why shouldn't they be used?
Ojeda last year did his best pitching after the strike, and one advantage he had, he was in the minor leagues staying sharp. Now all these hitters come back, and they're still trying to get back in the groove, and Ojeda was ahead of them. That might be part of the reason why he's slumped back this year.
Well, I think like you said, there's 2 reasons. One, that he was pitching in the minor leagues, and it took the hitters a while to get back in the groove. Plus, no one had seen him before, so he was new to him. Where it's more difficult for hitters to face pitchers that they haven't seen as compared to pitchers facing hitters they haven't seen.
A ball and 2 strikes to Newman. Ojeda shaking Gedman off. Gedman had an interesting night last night. Threw out a runner attempting to steal, picked another runner off, had 3 hits, but also made 2 errors. Ooh, the changeup just misses, 2-2.
Well, Ojeda wants to be careful with Jeff. Jeff has outstanding power, and with that wall, obviously, can 3-run home run. He's trying to keep the ball down. At least he should be trying to keep it down. That's where you get your double play. You don't have any speed on the bases or at bat, so they really got ideal people on there for double play.
Newman is at 284 overall with 3 homers and 16 runs batted in. And also catch, of course, at first base today. Ojeda trying to nibble those corners, and after being ahead 0-2, now the count is full.
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about, Bob. How you get in trouble as a pitcher. You start to nibble so much, and you're so aware of that wall that you just stop throwing strikes, and you're trying to be too cute out there. And your successful pitchers in this ballpark have come right at you.
Johnson is at second. Rudy is at first. One out on the 3-2 pitch. They are going. It's hit up the middle, but it's gloved there by Hoffman. Safe at second base. Safe, they say, at second. They get the runner at first, but what looked like a double play developing doesn't happen that way, and so Billy Martin, having the runners going, keeps the inning alive.
Well, Jeff hits the ball well right up the middle. Hoffman makes a good play in getting over there. Ball stays down. He gets there. Yeah, it's a good call. Good call. Rudy just beat him to second base.
But Hoffman still with plenty of time to complete the play and get the out at first.
Well, he got the ground ball he needed. Fortunately for Oakland, it was a 3-2 pitch, and Billy had the runners going. Otherwise, he has an easy double play.
Not many managers would have had the runner going with Johnson as the lead runner. Very slow-footed, but Martin did. Here's Mike Heath hitting .232 without a homer and with 6 runs batted in. A contrast in managerial styles today. Martin very fiery. And while Ralph Houk can have his moments, notably his hat-kicking routine when arguing with umpires, as a presence in the clubhouse and in the dugout, he's far more restrained than is Martin. Heath with a big cut, but he swings right through it, 1-1.
Well, Ralph really gives the players their space that they need, and he allows them to become professionals that they are. And that's been the difference, where Billy is really, like you said, fiery, and he's on top of guys, and he's more of a dictator type of manager.
Johnson at third, Rudy at second with 2 out on the top of the first. Again, he goes with the changeup, then it's top foul. A lot of guys have been saying, Carl Yastrzemski among them, that the American League has gone breaking ball mad. They say you never see a fastball, even on the first pitch anymore. Nobody starts you with the hard stuff.
Well, everybody's getting cute. Everybody feels that too many of your good hitters are fastball hitters, and consequently, they've been gone to the breaking ball.
And again, the slow breaking pitch. This one misses 2-2.
But I think if you look over the records and you look at who have been the most successful pitchers year in and year out, you're going to see fastball pitchers, because that's the toughest pitch to hit in baseball.
Third baseman Jimmy Sexton is on deck. 2-2 offering. Hit in the air to right. Here's Evans on the run toward the corner. Big trouble. Ground rule double. The A's have a 3-0 lead as Heath comes through.
Well, he'd have left this pitch up. And if you're going to pitch up in this ballpark, you better be able to throw the ball 95 miles an hour. You're going to get in trouble. And Ojeda doesn't throw the ball 95 miles an hour, and he's in trouble as Ralph Houk comes out to take him out.
Well, Houk gave Ojeda 2/3 of an inning to work with and decided then that he'd seen enough. Henderson opened with a single, stole second and third while Lopes was striking out. Johnson blooped a single to right for a 1-0 lead. Rudy walked, and after Newman grounded out, Heath delivers this double to the opposite field, and the A's jump up 3-0.
Well, the pitch was up, and Mike Heath goes the other way very well. Evans playing him more in right center. Ground rule double.
Bob Stanley takes a stroll out of the bullpen in right field, and while he warms up, we'll pause for this.
Well, here in Atlanta, these fans are turned on. We got a rain delay, but as you can see, they're in the stands. They want to see their first-place Atlanta Braves. They gave them a good show last night, coming from 5 runs behind to win the ball game. They got a pretty good crowd on hand here, but we are delayed by rain. They're working on the field. It looks like there will be baseball later on. Let me give you a report as to what we're going to have happen. For those of you in the San Francisco area, due to the blackout rule, we're sorry, but you'll have to go back to regular programming. Those of you who tuned in for the Phillies-Atlanta game, well, Tony and I will be here. We'll be giving you reports, and we'll be telling you what's going on. Meanwhile, in Boston, as you saw before, they do have good weather, and they have quite a ball game going. Billy Martin jumped out to a 1-0 lead with his typical Billy Martin baseball. Henderson gets on, steals a couple bases and a base hit. So all of you will go to Boston for the Oakland-Boston game. Tony and I will be here for our reports on this game. Have a good afternoon.
Has scored. Sexton, a ground ball to the left of Lansford, who picks it up and tags Heath coming at him from second base. So Heath could have stopped and forced Lansford to make the play, but didn't. So we've completed the top half of the first inning at Fenway Park, and again, we re-welcome those of you who were watching the Atlanta game. We're going to keep you here at Fenway for the Red Sox and the A's, where after one, Oakland has the 3-zip lead. The Red Sox line up Jerry Remy at second base, Dwight Evans in right field, the red-hot Jim Rice is in left, Yaz in the cleanup spot, DHing, Carney Lansford at third base hitting fifth, Dave Stapleton plays first base, bats sixth, Rich Gedman is the catcher, Glenn Hoffman is the shortstop, and the center fielder is Rick Miller hitting ninth. And Bo McLaughlin draws the assignment, his first start since the 1979 season when he was with the Atlanta Braves, and here's the defense that he'll have to work with. Henderson in left, Bosetti in center, Rudy in right. Newman, the first baseman, Lopes at second. Chicken Stanley, the former Yankee, plays shortstop. Jimmy Sexton is at third. Mike Heath catches the serves of Byron McLaughlin.
Byron's a fastball pitcher, basically. He's not overpowering. At times he could have a very good one. Curveball, and not being a starter since he was days in Atlanta, I'm sure Billy's looking just to get 4 or 5 good innings out of him and hopefully go to his bullpen, what he has out there.
He was released by the Braves organization in 1980, made the A's as a free agent in 81, but early in the season, Harold Baines of the White Sox whacked a line drive which hit him in the face and ended his season. Jerry Remy opens against him and takes high for ball one. Take a look at Jimmy Sexton at third base, how he's creeping in, protecting against the bunt. Remy leads the major leagues with 13 bunt hits, and he tries to put one down, but it's foul.
But Jerry's a very good bunter with great speed. He likes to bunt the ball mostly to third base, but he can drag it, and the only way you could take the bunt away from a good bunter is really to get up there on him and just force him not to bunt.
And of course, over the course of the season, that's got to add 15 or 20 points to your average because you can slap him by when you swing away. 2 balls and a strike to Jerry Remy. Give you an idea of how well he handles the bat. Last year they called upon him to sacrifice bunt 15 times. 14 times he was successful. This one is hit foul down the left side and out of play. And it's got to be out of play for Ricky Henderson not to get to it. There's not too much foul territory here in the first place at Fenway Park, but Henderson just ranges all over the place.
Well, as a hitter, this really helps your average because there's a lot of balls hit in other ballparks that are caught in foul territory. Here, at least they go into the stands and gives you another chance of getting a base hit.
Remy is from Somerset, Massachusetts, says that he grew up wanting to be Carl Yastrzemski, but instead wound up being Pumpsy Green. The count goes full now to 3-2. The Red Sox have come from behind to win 13 games already this year. They came from a 4-1 deficit to win last night. They spotted the A's 3 here in the first and trail it 3-0. Count still full to Remy. Our producer, Ken Edmondson, says, explain who Pumpsy Green was. Well, any fan of the Mets or Red Sox knows all about Pumpsy, right?
Pumpsy was a second baseman, I know that.
That might get through the hole. Lopes ranging left to make a good play and throw him out.
Well, Davey still has some of his range still left, and he's playing an outstanding second base for Oakland. I was talking to Art Fowler before the game, and he said they're very pleased with his defense, and he's really been that spark plug they've needed because basically they've got young guys who are very quiet. Davey makes a nice play. Good to get Remy.
Interesting fact there that he won a Gold Glove in '78. The public perception of him after last year's difficulties in the World Series when he was with the Dodgers is that he's a terrible fielder.
Well, anytime that you're on national TV in a series like the World Series and you do anything poorly, all of a sudden everyone thinks that you can't do something, and I think it's unfortunate. I think Davey's career has proven that he's been an outstanding ball player.
Dwight Evans. Speaking of Gold Gloves, this guy has 3 of them as a right fielder. Last year he tied with Bobby Grich, Tony Armas, and Eddie Murray of Baltimore for the American League home run lead with 22. He finally hit his first of the 1982 season last night. Straight call from Russ Goetz, 1-2.
Dwight changed his stance drastically last year, and it's paid off for him, much to the Charlie Lau theory, where he's got the rocking and the bouncing as you see him keeping the bat moving there, and he shifts his weight to the back. He was telling me before the game that his biggest problem has been he comes off that back foot too quick and commits himself.
You mentioned the Charlie Lau theory. The Red Sox hitting coach, Walter Riniak, is a Charlie Lau disciple, and he's got a lot of these Red Sox hitters following the same theories.
You'll see Rick Miller do basically the same thing when he's up there, and it's just bouncing your weight back and forth so you're not standing still too long up there as the pitcher holds the ball. And you can shift your weight off your back foot onto your front foot and generate more power.
McLaughlin has gone to full counts on the first 2 hitters. and he walks Evans, who perennially is among the American League leaders in walks and on-base percentage. So the Red Sox have a man aboard with one out, and here comes the sizzling Jim Rice, who had 4 base hits last night, a double, 2 singles, and a homer.
Well, in this ballpark, or in any ballpark where Jim Rice is a hitter, the one thing you don't want to do is put men on base in front of him. He's always been a big RBI man, and you're just asking for problems. Now, especially if you're walking guy, you've got to make the hitters swing away if they're going to get out.
Ball 1. Again, we remind those of you who have just tuned in, if you were expecting to see the Phillies and Braves, it's raining in Atlanta. We'll keep you abreast of any changes there if they do begin the game. 1-1 the count.
Good high fastball to Jim. Jim is a good fastball hitter. He likes the ball out over the plate a little bit more. If you notice on Bo McLaughlin, the next shot we get of him from the center field camera, he's one of those guys you call a dart thrower. If you notice the way he pitches there, it's much like a dart.
He kind of hesitates, has a hitch, and then tosses it in dart fashion from out in front, at least what appears to be in front of his body, rather than the fluid motion from behind the head on through.
Exactly, or you can call it a short armor where he doesn't have full extension. It seems like he's a little short with his arm.
1-1 to Rice. Oh, he changed up on him, and Jimmy was way out in front.
It was a good breaking ball, and Jimmy was anticipating the fastball inside, and it was good motion. It was a very good pitch.
Not counting the strike season of '81, Jim Rice has averaged 32 home runs a year for his big league career, topped by 46 with 139 RBIs in that great MVP season of 1978. Ripped, but foul.
Jim Rice is a very quiet leader. He's quiet in the sense he leads by example. He's got a very strong swing, very strong in his legs, generates a lot of power.
Talking about a strong swing, those who follow the Red Sox all the time have told me they swear it's true, even though you tend not to believe it, that he has twice checked swings and broken bats on pure strength. He had generated so much bat speed that when he stopped in mid-swing, the bat snapped.
I believe it. He is very strong. In fact, Ken Harrelson, who was a very good golfer, who was an announcer here for years, has played golf with Jim Rice. He said, you will not believe how far he hits a golf ball.
McLaughlin has thrown an awful lot of pitches here to the first 3 hitters. Went full on Remy and Evans. Now it's 2-2 to Rice, and he just serves that one down the line and left, and the count holds.
I would say more than any other player, Jim Rice has probably been, his home runs have been taken away from him because of the wall here, because he's such a strong line drive hitter, that he hits them more off the wall instead of over the wall.
He came out of spring training vowing to be a more disciplined hitter this season. And then when the home runs were slow in coming early, he kind of changed his attitude and said, I'm going to be more aggressive. And a Minnesota scout who followed the Red Sox earlier this season told me that on 20 of 23 at-bats, Rice swung at the first pitch. Swung at the first pitch. Swang, swung. Swung. Well, you too can be an announcer, Sal. Just learn what word to use at the proper time.
Well, he's definitely had a history of being a first-ball hitter. But you have to get ahead of him. Any good hitter, you have to get ahead, so you've got to be aware of that first pitch.
Number 3 among active big leaguers and homers over the past several seasons. 2-2 again. The count is full for the 3rd straight time. McLaughlin flirting with trouble. The Oakland pitching staff, which in previous years was renowned for all their complete games, a record number with McCaddy and Keogh and Norris and Langford. They have not been getting the root-going performances of late. Still a full count. The Oakland team ERA for the year is 4.65. They've had just 12 complete games in 41 over the course of the full year, and as you see, just 1 in their last 17. Yastrzemski is on deck. Do you run Evans in this situation, trailing 3-0?
Well, they didn't run him on the pitch before this, and I don't think they'll be running here.
You're right, and it's ball 4. McLaughlin doing the Red Sox some favors here. Yaz is the tying run at the plate, and he has homered in his last 2 games, and here comes Martin. Yaz is hitting at the age of 42 a mere .340 with 7 homers and 25 runs batted in.
Carl is an amazing hitter. At 42 years old, he's able to do things that 22-year-olds are not able to do, and I think the secret of his success has been able to adjust his whole career. As he got older, he might possibly got a little bit slower. He dropped the bat down. He adjusts the pitchers. He adjusts the situations, and that's the reason he's the superstar that he is.
Sal, how old are you?
38.
You've had a pretty good big league career. You're 4 years younger than this guy, and already you're in a rocking chair in the booth.
Well, that's Carl's next.
Martin sticks with McLaughlin. Yaz rocketed one into the bullpen last night to help the Red Sox in their comeback win. Strike one call.
Carl's the type of hitter. Now, he knows McLaughlin is struggling. He knows that he's going to give him a fastball somewhere along the line. He gave it to him first pitch, but he's looking for the ball, middle of the plate in, something that he could drive to right center, right field, and that's why he's a disciplined hitter.
To the track, and it just dives. And in front of the track, he makes the catch. Evans tags and goes to third. Boy, that ball left the bat like it was going places and dived.
Well, the wind is blowing from right center, right field in, and it's going to stop anything that you hit in the alleys. Something down the line might carry. And Carl hit that ball well. It was a breaking ball, but right into the teeth of the wind, which knocked it down.
It's 380 feet here to straightaway right field. 420 to almost dead center. Actually, the area where the bullpen wall meets the center field wall, just to the right side of second base. 379 in the left center, and they say 315 down the line to the green monster to the left. Although some people have questioned that, saying it's shorter. Lansford takes strike one.
Those small numbers underneath there.
Those are the distances in metric terms. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Lansford takes inside. Fenway Park is an absolute jewel of a ballpark. It's a ballpark, not a multi-purpose stadium. Everything about it is perfect. Everything about it is a piece of Americana. I can't imagine anything more incongruous than metric distances on a wall in a classic American ballpark. 2 balls and a strike to Carney Lansford. The metric system may make perfect sense. It may put us in sync with the rest of the world. It may be easier to deal with once you learn it. But on the walls of ballparks, it'll always be 315 feet, not 96 meters. 2-1 to Lansford, tying run at the plate last half of the first. 2-2.
When you see a hitter missing high fastballs like that, it tells you one thing, that the pitcher has got a good live fastball, and that's why he's able to throw up there. Jim Palmer was notorious for striking hitters out with high fastballs.
Evans is at third, and Rice is at first with 2 outs. Change is high, and McLaughlin, who evidently needs the work, or at least he thinks so, is going full on every hitter.
Well, you saw Heath showing him what he's doing with his arm and what he's trying to tell him. He's locking his elbow. He's not extending it and being able to get the ball to break. He's keeping it in too close, and consequently he's hanging the pitch.
Carney Lansford last year led the American League in batting, first right-handed hitter to do so since Alex Johnson in 1970. Pickoff play toward third, you can do that. Nobody was covering. And McLaughlin's thought, perhaps, was to get Rice leaning.
Well, he thought Rice would go on his first move, so he took that move to third base and see if he would be running in the 3-2 pitch.
The third walk of the inning, and Lansford's pass loads the bases.
It's a fastball. Up and in, tailing in. I think we're seeing the effects of Bo McLaughlin not pitching very much right here and being wild in this first inning.
Going back to that play with the bluff throw to third, you can step toward third and not throw the ball, even though every time it happens you hear the cry of balk from the stands. And with the count 3-2, an automatic go situation for Rice at first. McLaughlin thought that perhaps with the fake, he could get Rice to take off prematurely and then hang him up between first and second.
Exactly. A runner will move or run on his first move that a pitcher makes.
Bases are loaded for Stapleton, the first baseman.
And that first move is usually towards home plate, so anticipating that that's what the pitcher is going to do, the runner should take off. But Rice was very cautious and was able to wait and see what the pitcher was going to do.
No balls and a strike. Change up just misses. McLaughlin has thrown an awful lot of off-speed stuff in this first inning.
Well, he's changing off of his breaking ball. He throws a hard slider, and he changes the speed on the slider, and he uses it both as a changeup and as a breaking ball. If he throws it for strikes, he's going to be effective, but you can't keep throwing that pitch and get behind.
Up the middle, but Davy Lopes is able to grab it. It was a soft line drive, giving Lopes enough time to get over to his right. So the Red Sox load the bases on 3 walks, but come up empty. And at the end of 1 at Fenway, the A's lead the Sox 3-0. American League last night, as we told you, the Red Sox beat the A's. Flanagan, the winner for Baltimore over Toronto. Ted Simmons finally coming alive, had a 2-run double as Milwaukee beat Seattle. Gamble and Mercer homered for the Yankees. They pounded Minnesota 12-1. California cooled Detroit off 9-7. Dennis Leonard beat Frank Tanana, who's now 1-6, 3-0 KC over Texas, and Britt Burns was the winner as Chicago beat Cleveland. The standings in the American League: Boston by a game over Detroit and 5 over Milwaukee. The Yankees 7 back in the East. In the West, Chicago and California in a virtual tie. It's the White Sox by percentage points. Lance was fielding the ground ball and throwing Rick Rossetti out for the first out of the second inning. Kansas City trails by 4 in the West, and Oakland at 20 and 21 is 7 games back.
Bob Stanley has his pitches going for him tonight. You're going to see, or today, you're going to see a lot of ground balls being hit to the infielders. He is definitely a ground ball pitcher, and I don't mean hard ground balls. I mean the weak ones, the kind you just noticed.
Bob Stanley to Fred Stanley. They're no relation. Fred Stanley hitting just 104 without a homer and 1 run batted in. A ball and a strike as we pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network.
WNYT, Albany, New York.
Bob Costas with Sal Bando at Fenway Park, where the A's jumped on Bob Ojeda and knocked him out with 3 in the first. Now it's Bob Stanley on the hill for Boston, and ahead of Chicken Stanley, 1 and 2. For you, Sal. Over the last 3 years, Oakland is 3 and 16 at Fenway.
That's amazing, because with their good pitching, you would think that they would be able to handle Boston in this ballpark.
2 and 2.
I've always felt that having a good offensive team is no advantage in this ballpark, because the wall is going to make you a good offensive team no matter who you have. And Oakland has enough hitters to be able to take advantage of that wall.
Up the middle for a rare Fred Stanley base hit.
Bob is just pumping those sinkers in there, and that ball didn't sink very well, and Fred Stanley was able to hit it up the middle and make good contact. He was telling me before the game how difficult it's been for him to find a base hit. He hits the ball good and everybody seems to catch it.
Here's Ricky Henderson, who had a fairly typical first time at bat. He singled, stole second and third. Here's what Dick Hauser had to say about the arrival of players like Ricky Henderson and Tim Raines and Willie Wilson in the game of baseball. You had guys who could run. In years back, you had the Luis Aparicios, and then Maury Wills started the stolen base revolution. He was followed by Lou Brock, but there weren't as many. It seems like almost every club has somebody who can change the way the defense has to play the entire game if they get on base.
I think your athletes are becoming bigger and stronger and faster, and simply because conditions are better for them, and you're going to be able to groom better athletes.
1-1 to Henderson with a man at first and 1 out in the second. Ricky Henderson stealing third, the second of his 2 steals in the first inning. He ultimately scored the game's first run. 2 balls and 2 strikes to the A's left fielder. If Ricky Henderson could continue his present pace, he would draw 189 walks this year. To put that in perspective, Babe Ruth got 170 in 1923, and he would steal 154 bases, not merely breaking, but shattering the Lou Brock record.
And I think you have to have a disciplined second hitter behind him for him to be able to steal those bases.
Slow roller, they'll be lucky to get one, and they get nothing. Hoffman unable to handle the flip from Remy.
Well, I think that's the intimidation of the speed of Henderson. He wanted to get that ball in a hurry because he knew he didn't have much time. Consequently, he took his eyes off the throw and was looking towards first. As you see, Ricky doesn't hit the ball very hard. It jams him. It's a slow grounder to second. I think Jerry Remy gives him a good throw here. He just is in a hurry to make his pivot and to throw to first base, and that's what speed will do. It intimidates you.
Even had he handled it cleanly, he probably could not have gotten Henderson at first. Lopes swings through at strike one.
Exactly. That's a position where you have to concede the runner at first base and make sure of one, and he doesn't make sure of one.
Stanley was prepared to go a bit out of his way to take him out of the plate. You notice that? Inside the Lopes.
The rules say that Stanley on that slide has to be able to touch the bag with his hands, and I'm not so sure that he would have been able to without rolling towards second base. So they could have easily called that an illegal slide.
2 on, 1 out, top of the second. A's already lead it 3-0. Watch Bob Stanley. No, I guess we're going to take a look at Glenn Hoffman.
Here's a slide. Now let's see if he can touch second base without getting up. Now he would not have been able to touch second. He has to roll over there and lunge for the bag.
And now Bob Stanley falls behind Davy Lopes 3-1.
You also notice that Bob Stanley is not fooling anybody. He is throwing nothing but hard sinkers. He hasn't even mixed in a breaking ball. As a hitter, you're aware of this. He's just looking for a fastball that he can get up a little bit.
Hit on the ground to Hoffman at short. 1, but not 2. So the A's now with runners at the corners and 2 out. If we can get a look at it, I started to say earlier about Bob Stanley. In addition to throwing that slider and sinker, which are wicked in the first place, he'll come down 3/4 and very occasionally even sidearm. And that makes it even tougher to handle.
Especially for a right-hander. Left-hander, it doesn't affect him at all, and usually pitchers won't drop down against left-handers. But for a right-hander, he's nasty enough with his hard sinker. Then when he starts dropping down, it's time for your prayers.
Cliff Johnson had an RBI single his first time up and takes a ball. With second base open, Davy Lopes, even at this stage of his career, a very definite threat to steal. Another chance for Hoffman. He atones for the earlier error by handling the last 2 plays of the second inning. And the A's go out without adding to their 3-0 lead. Back with the bottom half of the second at Fenway right after this. Last night, National League, Atlanta's lead is 5 in the West, 7-6 over the Phillies. Charlie Lee with the strong pitching performance, Expos over the Reds. Don Sutton goes to 7-1. Houston beats the Mets. San Diego over Pittsburgh 7-5. That coupled with Chicago's win over San Francisco. Cubs have won 9 of their last 13. Drops Pittsburgh into the cellar and takes the Cubs out of it in the East. And the Cardinals beat the Dodgers 6-3. Cardinals now down to their 3rd string catcher. And speaking of catchers, Rich Gedman leads off the last half of the second inning with the first base hit of the day for the Red Sox, a ground single to right. And that'll improve his average, which was .333 coming in after 3 hits last night. The Cardinals had Darryl Porter break a finger, and then Gene Tennis's backup break a hand. Glenn Brummer, whom they brought up from the minor leagues, had a couple of base hits for them last night as they were able to beat the Dodgers. Standings, National League, Cardinals by 3.5 over the Mets, 5 over the Phillies in the East. In the West, Atlanta 5 over San Diego, 7.5 over the Dodgers and the Astros. Shortstop Glenn Hoffman is the hitter. Last year, Hoffman injured an ankle playing basketball just before the season started. That cut down on his mobility. That was part of the problem. Also, the pressure of succeeding Rick Burleson hampered him. Fouls it back, strike 2. And he was weak at the plate and shaky in the field. Some people called for his ouster as the Red Sox shortstop, but Ralph Houk, who is always he's acknowledged as the ultimate player's manager. Took him aside and said, look, this job is yours. You settle down, play good ball. And this year, Hoffman has done that.
Well, he's done a good job for him this year. I know last year, right during the last month of the season of the pennant drive, he didn't play hardly at all. Stapleton played shortstop. But if you've been shaky at the bat, shaky in the field, it doesn't leave much room to do anything else.
Except be a nice guy around the clubhouse.
Throw good batting practice. I know what that's like. I did that for 2 years.
It stays at 0-2. Hoffman is hitting .270 with 4 homers and 26 runs batted in. Last year, he had 1 homer and 20 RBIs for the whole thing. Starting to say for the full season, but in 81 you can't say that about anybody.
And you really have to hand it to the Red Sox team because they really lost all their strength up the middle. Lynn, Burleson, and Fisk.
Bounce toward first. Newman thought about it and threw it away. It comes right to Ricky Henderson in left field, so Gedman stops at second base. When Newman whirled around, by the time he had taken that long, it was already a dangerous play to go to second, especially with a 3-0 lead.
And he's got to make a perfect throw, and with the runner right in your line, it's very difficult. See, the runner's right in his line to throw to second. He can't. He's got to make sure of one and just step on the base and keep the runner at second base. Well, and this is the first time he's played first base this year. He's been alternating every other day with Mike Heath as a catcher. So when you look back at it, you say, well, he should have done the safe play, but at the same time, he hasn't been out there all year.
Top half of the first. Since then, they have issued 3 base-on balls to the Red Sox and committed an error. So the Sox have had their opportunities to jump back in it. Center fielder Rick Miller. Lost one to left. Henderson back near the line, and it's just out of play.
You know, as an infielder, you're really hoping in a position like this that your pitcher can really pick you up for making a mistake. And really, your good pitchers are able to do that. In fact, they'll tell you, don't worry about it. I'll pick you up right here, because there's going to be times when that pitcher makes a mistake, and he's hoping his infielders or outfielders pick him up.
Last night, Billy Martin stuck with Rick Langford through 7 runs and 14 hits before he finally took him out.
Well, his choice was going to the bullpen, which has been getting knocked around a little bit. So really, their pitching is not in all that great shape.
0-1 to Miller. He bluffs the bunt and takes outside. Mike Heath is the kind of catcher who likes to throw the ball. He'll often come up and fire one to second or first, trying to nail a base runner who strayed too far.
He's got an outstanding throw number. In fact, last year he threw out 27 of 57 runners, which is a phenomenal percent for catchers.
And this year he's nailed 50% of those who tried to take liberties with him. Miller, the tying run at the plate with nobody out, bottom half of the second inning. Lays off 2-1. Miller is in his second tour of duty with the Red Sox. Started with them, went to California, came back, along with Carney Lansford and Mark Clear in the deal which sent Rick Burleson and Butch Hobson to California. A deal which looked like it wasn't such a good one for the Red Sox at the time, but right now it shapes up as a great one.
Well, I really thought at that time it was a good deal, because I figured Lansford and Burleson were awash. They were both quality players, but they were able to get Mark Clear in the deal, which gave them the stopper they needed in the bullpen, and that became a very big plus.
McLaughlin, finding it difficult to stand prosperity, is 1 pitch away from loading the bases again.
Well, Heath does a good job here keeping the ball in front of him, not allowing the runners to advance. Gets his knees down there, hits him in the chest.
Leadoff hitter Jerry Remy is on deck. A ground single by Gedman, an error by the first baseman Newman to put runners at first and second with nobody out. The 3-1 pitch, blooped back over second, racing in as Bosetti has no play. The bases are going to be loaded.
Well, Rick hit that ball off the end of the bat, just placed it nicely out in center field. Not much anybody could do about that. McLaughlin makes a good pitch. He doesn't hit it good. Sinker ball tailing away from him. I would think as a pitcher, that's got to be the most difficult part of pitching, is to make a good pitch, and the guy doesn't hit the ball good, yet he gets a base hit.
Could Dwayne Murphy have handled that ball, considering the fact that he plays the most shallow center field in all of baseball, and with his blinding speed, would he have had a chance to handle that ball, Sal?
Well, I don't think he would have played any more shallow than Rossetti's played, but his speed is greater, so he might have had an easier play on the ball.
Top of the order with the bases loaded and nobody out, and Remy cuts on the first one and fouls it off. Evans is on deck, and then Rice will follow.
Jerry Remy does not strike out very much. It's going to be very difficult to double up, so chances are if he doesn't hit a pop-up, he's going to get a run in here somehow, unless he taps the ball right in front of the plate or out back to the pitcher.
The Red Sox are 26-13, their best start since the pennant year of 1946, and half of their 26 victories have been accomplished in come-from-behind fashion. The same thing might be brewing today. They trail 3-0, but they've got them loaded. A ball and a strike to Remy.
Seems whenever you play the Red Sox in this ballpark, you're always in trouble, either because you caused the trouble or because the Red Sox have done it, but it never seems like you have an easy inning.
They might get two on this. Lopes. They drop it at second. Stanley drops the ball. They do not even give them the force out. The bases remain loaded, and a run is home.
There goes the intimidation of speed. Jerry Remy, Stanley doing the same thing that Hoffman did the inning before. The ball's, like you say, it's really a double play all the way. You just got to catch the ball, look it into your glove. He hustles up and he drops it.
Sometimes on a play like that, you'll get the out call at second base if the umpire feels that the pivot man had it long enough before dropping it. But in this case, Rich Garcia, the second base umpire, says no, and you can tell from the replay he's right.
Right, he's got to be taking the ball out of his glove. He was not taking, he was reaching in for it, but he did not have clean possession of it.
Now the tying run is at second. The go-ahead run is at first base, and the person is Remy, and the hitter is Evans, who walked his first time.
Here, as you see, it's in his glove now. He should be trying to take it out, and it falls right out of his glove, so he did not have possession of it long enough.
Still no action in the Oakland bullpen. Evans takes a strike.
I guess you really can't blame Bo McLaughlin. He hasn't done anything wrong out there. He gave up a flare base hit. There was 2 errors behind him, so he hasn't caused the problem.
In the first inning, he walked himself into trouble, filling the bases on 3 free passes, but got out of it. Here's the changeup that misses outside, 2-1. Even if McLaughlin wriggles off the hook here, and as you see, Martin has no intention, at least right now, of taking him out. Even if he gets out of this, if this continues, he will have thrown about 100 pitches by the time we hit the 4th inning.
Jim Rice up next and Kyle Yastrzemski to follow. He's got to make a very big pitch right here, and Dwight Evans is just sitting on that fastball, waiting for it to be anywhere in his wheelhouse, which would be the middle of the plate in, something he can drive. This is a hitter's delight right now. Bases loaded, 3-1 pitch. You know a fastball's coming. You're a fastball hitter. You just hope you don't hit it at somebody.
Bo McLaughlin making his first start in 2.5 years in big trouble.
Somebody missed something. Either we missed a pitch or they missed a pitch.
The scoreboard must have been incorrect. Now it reads 3-1. Or perhaps time was called before the pitch. No, that is ball 4. Sure. Well, for once we were right in the first place, Sal.
They better leave a wake-up call out there.
That was a 3-1 pitch. It did miss high. Evans has his second walk of the day and an RBI, and we've got a 3-2 ball game. Bases loaded, still nobody out.
I'll tell you what happened in a situation like that for Dwight Evans. He's concentrating so much on what he's looking for and on getting a hit that he lost sight of what the count was, or thought of what the count was, and he's ready to go again.
A bouncing single to open the inning by Gedman. An error by the first baseman Newman on a ground ball by Hoffman. A blue pit to center by Miller. An error by the shortstop Stanley on a potential double play ball hit by Remy. A bases-loaded run-scoring walk to Evans, and now here's Rice. 3-2 game, still loaded, nobody out. And he was going for the jackpot.
Well, and you've got McLaughlin, who has just walked Evans, and I would think Jim would be looking for a pitch more in the strike zone. That pitch was out of the strike zone, up and in. But again, he's looking for that first fastball, and we talked about him being a first-ball fastball hitter.
Yaz on deck, Lansford to follow. Base hit, left field. The game is tied. Henderson has an excellent arm, and they won't challenge it with nobody out.
That shows you the strength of Jim Rice, because that ball was in on him a little bit. In fact, I think it broke his back, but he's strong enough to muscle it out into left field between the third baseman and shortstop. Good strong stride, and the ball's in on him, off the hands a little bit.
Sal, last night it was 8-7. We said coming in that we could be seeing a typical Fenway Park ball game. No disappointments. 3-3, bottom of the second.
7 hits, 3 errors, and there's still nobody out in this inning.
Ralph Houck. Carl Yastrzemski said that when they hired him prior to last season, he wondered whether Houck would be too old to relate to the modern players. It's kind of curious. Yaz past 40, wondering if the manager would be too old. But he says all those fears have been dispelled. Houck has just done a wonderful job in Boston. McLaughlin with a changeup that misses by a mile.
Well, you don't manage as long as Ralph Houck has and not be in tune to what the players' needs are. That's the reason he's lasted as long as he has, because he knows how to handle people.
So many ball players who have played for him with the Yankees, with the Tigers, and now with the Red Sox say this is the ultimate player's manager. McLaughlin falls behind Yaz 2-0.
I've always felt a good manager is a manager that you don't know is manager. He doesn't try to get headlines. He doesn't try to make moves so people can see him. He puts the players' names on the lineup card, and they go out there and do their job.
This is Art Fowler out to talk with McLaughlin, and still nobody is throwing in the Oakland bullpen. Both managers learned their baseball under Casey Stengel, Ralph Houck and Billy Martin. And although their approaches are different, they both did learn at the old professor's knee.
Well, I think Casey Stengel taught him the strategy of the game and how to get the best out of players. Casey's personality obviously was much different than either manager. Billy, the fiery one; Ralph, the laid-back, strong personality type.
Neither one as humorous as Casey, but then who was?
Or could they have the double talk he did?
The 2-0 pitch to Yaz. This could be 2. A high throw from Stanley, but Newman was able to reach and pick it off. And so they do turn the 4-6-3 double play. Remy scores. Yaz doesn't get an RBI. And the Red Sox have the lead 4-3.
I wonder if Art told him, let's throw a double play ball here. What do you think?
That was the objective. Based upon what had happened before that pitch, though, you couldn't be very optimistic that it was going to work.
Right. Oh, he hit the ball well. He just hit it right at Lopes, and they were able to turn it. Not out of the woods yet, though.
Lansford walked his first time up. Evans is the runner at third with 2 out. Despite the very appealing wall in left field, Lansford is not truly a pull hitter. He'll go to the opposite field very often.
You know, Carney, when he was with the California Angels, was a very capable pull hitter. At times, he would really turn on a ball and drive it and hit a few home runs. You would think coming to Fenway, he would continue to swing that way. But he changed his hitting style. He hits the ball the opposite way. He does not hit many home runs, but he hits for a high average.
But this one he does pull. Henderson going back, and on the track in left, he takes it. So the Red Sox score 4 runs to turn a 3-0 deficit into a 4-3 lead at the end of 2 at Fenway Park. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Rudy, Newman, and Heath coming up in the top half of the third for the A's. But before we give you Oakland's turn at bat, let's go down to Atlanta for a report.
Okay, Bob, Joe Garagiola with Tony Kubek here in Atlanta, and there you see the score, 2-1 in the bottom half of the second. The Braves, not exactly your classic Spalding Guide inning, had 3 base on balls, 2 hits in the bottom half of the first, but only scored 1 run. Hubbard was thrown out at the plate as he attempted to score the second run. The Phillies scored their run, the top half, a single by Diaz, a double by Maddox, was second and third. Trio bounced out to the second baseman, 1 run scored, and then Maddox scored on a wild pitch, and that's the way we stand. It's Krukau against Larry McWilliams, and it's a 2-1 lead, bottom of the second. The Phillies are out in front. The game was delayed by rain some 40 minutes, but they are playing now. Let's go back to Boston for their report.
Thank you, Joe. And as Mr. Garagiola pointed out, down in Atlanta, not exactly a Spalding Guide inning. Well, we've had a couple of frames like that already here at Fenway Park, Sal.
Exactly. Must be reading out of the same book.
And Bob Stanley has fallen behind Joe Rudy 3-0. The A's average game this year has gone longer than 3 hours. Last year, they took longer to complete a ball game than any team in the major leagues, averaging 2 hours and 55 minutes. This game is fitting right into that mold.
If this game continues, maybe we can cut it up, make it a series.
Rudy, a leadoff walk.
I don't think we'll see much happening on the bases with Joe. Even in his prime, Joe was not notorious for his speed.
Rudy has drawn 2 walks today,
like a number of us.
Newman, the hitter, takes a strike. You hit exceptionally well in this ballpark. Was there any secret to that? Was it ignoring the monster in left and just following the normal style, or what?
I think psychologically I didn't worry about having to hit a ball hard or far because the fence was so close, so you just relax and you go about your business, and things happen that way. It's when you try to take advantage of the wall that you're not able to do anything.
14 lifetime home runs for you in this ballpark. You enjoyed it.
Yes, I did.
0-2 to Newman. This was 1-2.
We came in here to play a series. We got rained out the first 3 games, so we played 6 games in 4 days here. Our team at Oakland, and we hit the wall 1 time, and Reggie Jackson hit it.
To the opposite field for Reggie. 1-2 pitch. Misses 2-2. Actually, it was right here in this ballpark that the Oakland dynasty ended. You had won the World Championship 3 straight years, 72, 73, 74, and then in the 75 League Championship Series, the A's were swept 3 straight by the Red Sox.
They did everything right that series. In fact, the one thing I remember is Jim Rice broke his hand. We really felt we had a big edge, and Carl Yastrzemski went out to left field for the first time in that season and beat us with his defense.
And then the Red Sox went on to play in perhaps the greatest World Series of our generation.
The most exciting in Cincinnati.
Count stays full. The on-deck hitter is Mike Heath, who drove in a couple of runs with a ground rule double in his first trip. I can remember back to maybe, 15 years ago at most, when Ed Herman sported a beard for the Chicago White Sox, and that was revolutionary. Tap toward third, and Lansford will have only 1 play. That's to get Newman at first.
Well, I think what started it all was the mustaches in Oakland in '72, when no beards were really, I guess it was unwritten rule that you didn't wear them, and Charlie Finley had a promotion of Mustache Day, and he paid his players to wear them, and then we were tabbed as the bad guys, and then from then on, players started to grow beards, mustaches, what have you.
Did anybody not wear a beard or mustache in Oakland, despite the offer of the cash from Finley?
Well, there were 3 of us, myself, Mike Egan, and Larry Brown, and Mr. Finley called us into his office, and we had a little chat where he did the talking and we did the listening, and we quickly grew back the mustaches.
Admirable, though, in your desire to remain clean-cut. Admire that.
Oh, I don't think it was trying to remain clean-cut. I just looked like I needed to shave every day. In fact, it all got started because Reggie had grown a beard, and instead of asking Reggie to grow it, we felt that let's everyone grow one, and maybe he'll shave his off. So it turned out we all grew them.
0-1 pitch to Heath is inside, 1-1. Rudy is the tying run at second with 1 out. We're in the top half of the third, and the Red Sox, after trailing 3-0, now lead at 4-3. This is Bob Stanley in relief of starter Bob Ojeda, who lasted 2/3 of an inning. Ripped to left, headed for the wall. and off it on the fly. Rudy comes in to score the tying run. Rice with a throw to second, and diving in head first is Heath with his second double of the game. Actually had that throw, which was a strong one, but not the most accurate. Had it been right on line, they might have gotten him.
I think Mike would have been out. You know, Bob Stanley throws 90 to 95% fastballs, but here he throws a breaking ball that he hangs, which is perfect for Mike Heath. Stays up and in, he drills it down the left field line, and here's the throw. And he has it in enough time, it just short hops him and pulls him off the bag.
That's one of the many interesting aspects of a game played at Fenway Park. Singles off the wall are nothing out of the ordinary, and very often you'll see a ball hit off the wall, a guy will be thrown out trying to go from first to third on it.
Exactly. Carl Yastrzemski played the left field wall here as good as any human being is able to play. He was just a master out here.
Heath has driven in 3 of the A's 4 runs, and Jimmy Sexton, who grounded out his first time up, has a chance to put the A's back in front. Hit to third and a foul ball.
You know, if there is a secret to hitting a sinker ball pitcher of Bob Stanley's caliber, one of the things that you must do as a hitter is not try to pull the ball, because that all you're going to do is you're going to hit on top of it and hit nothing but grounders at third and short. The idea is try to hit the ball the opposite way, hit the ball a little bit more flush, and drive it the opposite way, and you stay away from hitting that weak grounder.
Bob Stanley, who has been a starter at various times in the past, might go an awful long way today, because it's Ralph Houck's history not to overwork the bullpen. In the 2 seasons he has spent here, only 6 times has he used a pitcher out of the bullpen on consecutive days. And Bergmeyer and Clear both pitched last night. The runner is going, but the ball is popped up. And if it comes down fast enough, they'll get 2, and they do.
Well, there's a situation. Mike Heath did not look at the hitter to see where the ball went. When you're going to steal a base, you've got to look in at the hitter.
The double play ends the inning with the score tied at 4.
Joe Garagiola back here with Tony Kubek in Atlanta. 1 out here in the top half of the third. Mike Schmidt is the batter. And I tell you, we had a play here, you're looking at it, where almost half the team got involved. Butler lines off Krukow's arm. DeJesus almost makes the play off his glove. Now you see the base runner, Ramirez, he's going to try to score, and the center fielder, Maddox, picks up the ball and fires it home. They get their man, and you score it 1-6-8-2. So it's still 2-1, top of the third. Philadelphia Phillies leading. Let's go to Boston.
And there's your typical 1-6-8-2 play, which you work on all the time in spring training, right? Last half of the third, Stapleton, Gedman, and Hoffman for the Red Sox. And ball 1 from McLaughlin. We're tied again at 4. Although the way the top half of the third ended still has me shaking my head. Heath at second, nobody else on base, with 1 out, and he is running on the pitch to Sexton, who pops up into a double play. Here's Newman for a look near the dugout and on the roof.
Well, I would not think there's a hit and run on. There's no sense in having that, so they must feel that Heath would be able to steal the base. There he goes, hoping to surprise him. We can't see what he's doing, but he must not have looked in to see where the hitter hit the ball. Third base coach is yelling him to get back, but at this point it's too late.
Heath must have felt, or Martin from the dugout must have felt, that Stanley was paying no attention to the runner, and so the stolen base would be a piece of cake.
Right, give him position to score on a fly ball or a ground ball.
Stapleton has to turn away from that pitch, which didn't have much on it. A ball and a strike.
You know, Bob, I really believe that with Dave Stapleton, without him, this club would not have been able to move as well as they have. He is really a quality player who's able to do a number of things. Play short, third, second, all the infield, first base. They've made him a first baseman. He hits to all fields. He's just an outstanding player.
One thing he has done for them defensively, he has greater range than either Yaz or Perez. He plays further off the bag. That allows Remy to move a little bit over toward the bag at second base, improve their overall defense on the right side. Sexton at third throws him out for the first out.
You know, I was very surprised that when Butch Hobson was here, that they didn't eventually move him to first base, because I thought that would have been his best position, having the problems with his throwing arm and with his swing and his power. This park was built for him.
Gedman, the catcher, who opened a 4-run second inning with a ground single to right. Lofts it foul for strike one. Gedman's batting average now at .341 with 2 homers and 13 runs batted in.
The book on Rich is a first ball fastball hitter. He swings at the first fastball this time. The first time up, he singles on a fastball. And you're going to have to change speeds on him if you hope to get him out.
The 1-1 pitch from McLaughlin. And again, he changes speeds and misses.
You know, people ask, well, if you know a player's a first ball fastball hitter, why do you throw him a fastball? Well, because if you throw a breaking ball and you go ball one, now you've got to come in with the fastball the next pitch. So you're hoping to be able to get ahead with the fastball.
Into the same place, but this time Lopes is able to get over and throw him out. That's just about where Gedman hit the ball the first time up for a base hit, but Lopes had shaded him a bit more this time toward the bag at first and was in position to make the play.
There's a replay, and you see Davey, again, he was playing him over much more than he did the first time. In fact, this ball was hit a lot harder than the base hit he hit. But when you shade him and they're going to pitch him a certain way, then you have your infielders play him that way.
Shortstop Glenn Hoffman reached on an error his first time up. This telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball, intended solely for the private, non-commercial use of our audience. And this one is popped back of shortstop, and Stanley backpedals and takes it. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of Major League Baseball is prohibited. A rarity for this game, the Red Sox go out 1-2-3 in the last half of the third, heading for the Oakland fourth, tied at 4. The brains and the legs, Billy Martin and Ricky Henderson. Henderson was quoted recently as saying, "I am the ball player Billy Martin would have been if he could have run, like me."
Well, I don't know about that.
Hey, I'm just telling you what the guy said. You don't have to agree with it.
He doesn't even know how Billy Martin played. He was too young to know that.
Posetti is the hitter.
They were talking over there before, and Billy was motioning to him about letting Stanley get the ball away from him because the ball in is very difficult to handle. So he's trying to tell him, make Stanley throw you strikes away and be able to hit it that way and leave the ball away that's in.
Broken bat grounder to short, and Hoffman boots it. Hoffman will have his second error of the day. This has not been a shortstop's clinic this afternoon at Fenway.
A lot of things happen in this ballpark, and I think the ball took a bad hop on him just as he went down to pick it up. Should be able to see right here. It'll come up at the last minute and hit him in the wrist. He jams Bassetti, the sinker running in at him. Hoffman will put right there. It comes up. And he didn't come up with it in time.
But Stanley.
Chicken Stanley singled up the middle his first time at bat. We're tied at 4, top of the fourth. Gets the bunt down, might be too hard. Stanley with a nice bare hand play, and they get 2.
That, my friend, is a major league fielding play right there. That ball is bunted much too hard, and Stanley just makes an outstanding defensive play, barehanded it and throwing a strike to second base. This play is really an exceptional play for a pitcher. First of all, he's off balance. He gets over there and plants good. Barehanded it, a perfect strike to Hoffman, and a nice turn. That is an outstanding play. It's how you can help yourself if you're a pitcher. As you field your position, you're an infielder just like the other players are, and you're supposed to catch anything that comes your way.
Henderson has singled and reached on an error, and he takes strike 1. Fouls it back, 0-2. Billy Martin 4 times the American League Manager of the Year. Most recently last season with the A's, the surprising A's who got out of the box so quickly and then were able to coast to the championship in the American League West.
Well, when they, after the strike, when they made the rules that the team that was leading the first half automatically gets in, it was able to make the job for Billy a lot easier.
This year his club is struggling. They've lost 4 in a row, and they're 20-21, 7 games back of the White Sox and Angels in the American League West. A moment ago, you saw the Baltimore score, leading Toronto 6-0. That could be the 4th straight win for the Orioles, who may finally be snapping out of it after stumbling around for the first month and a half.
Well, when you have the quality of players Baltimore does, it's just a matter of time before they get on track.
Fourth inning in Atlanta, and the Phillies still lead the Braves 2-1. 1-2 pitch to Henderson. Misses 2-2. It's not just the exaggerated stance of Henderson, which gets him so many base on balls. He has an excellent eye.
Right.
Hit to third. It's a foul ball. It would have been interesting to see as Lansford led up and Henderson was into a trot by the time the play ended. Would have been interesting to see whether or not Lansford could have gotten Henderson on that slowly hit ball back in the bag had it been fair.
Well, the rule says that if the ball bounces over the base, even if the ball goes into foul territory, you catch it, it's still a fair ball. And from that angle, it looked like it just missed from going over the corner of the bag. I've seen many balls in this ballpark hit the stands foul, but be called fair because the angle of it going over the bag.
And for those who may not be familiar with the rule, it is the position of the ball and not the fielder that determines fair or foul. So with Lansford reaching over the line, it makes no difference where his feet are. It's where the ball is.
I can remember a number of years ago, Brooks Robinson making all the great plays against Cincinnati in the World Series. He was catching them all in foul territory, but they were fair balls.
And this one is again hit to third. Lansford up, gets Henderson. And thanks to an excellent fielding play by Stanley, which turned a bunt attempt into a double play, the A's go out without any trouble. After 3.5, it's a 4-4 ball game. Well, Sal, we are, I would say, in America's sports mecca for this weekend. The Red Sox with a big crowd and the lead in the American League East. And tomorrow the Celtics go against the Sixers over at the Garden. This place is sports crazy this weekend.
Well, this is a great town to be in, and they love their sports. They love their teams here, and just exciting to be part of it.
Last night, while the Red Sox were playing the A's, one of the strangest sights you'll ever see, sights and sounds, as Rick Miller leads off the Red Sox fourth with a shot to center that's run down by Rick Bossetti. Many of the fans were following the Celtics game at Philadelphia against the 76ers on transistor radios. And the baseball game was interrupted. You see a guy, if you can pick him out, behind the other fella's head wearing a Celtics cap, a white cap with the shamrock on it. The game was interrupted about 10 times for standing ovations for the Celtics. And when the Celtics put on a fourth-quarter run, there were cheers of approval on literally every Boston basket. And several times, the umpires had to stop the game to allow the din to die down.
Well, it's, you know, as a player, and you're out there and you're hitting, and you've got 2 strikes on you, and you're a Boston player, and they start cheering, you got to wonder, what did I do? And they, as you said, they had the Celtic game going on, and it was really phenomenal, except it can ruin your concentration, especially if you're the pitcher.
And at one point, there was a sustained chant of Celtics, 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 and afterwards, some of the Red Sox players said that it charged them up. Remy is the hitter. He's grounded out and reached on an error. There was a time in Jerry Remy's career where for a 3 or 4 year stretch he averaged about 35 stolen bases a season. That figure has dipped a little bit with some leg troubles in recent campaigns. Henderson will have no problem with this. 2 out.
Plus, this ballpark takes away any running threat simply because they like you to swing the bat and not run yourself out of innings, and they want to give the Rices, the Evans, the Yastrzemskis a chance to swing the bat. So to get guys that could run is only going to help you defensively. Offensively, they're concentrated on swinging the bat.
24, Dwight Evans, right field.
Dwight Evans hasn't had to swing the bat so far today. He's walked twice. Charlie Finley would have been proud of him. Nice handlebar effect.
Raleigh, I asked him, trying to be Raleigh Fingers. Said he was trying to be Dwight Evans. See, he's got the handlebar mustache. I think he started to grow that after he hit that tremendous home run off of Raleigh here last year.
2 outs and the base is clear in the last half of the fourth, and now Evans wants plate umpire Russ Goetz to take a look at the baseball. Art Fowler is Billy Martin's personal pitching coach. He follows him everywhere. Had him in New York, then he comes out to Oakland, and it has been alleged by a cynical few that Fowler teaches all of his pitchers how to throw the spitball.
Well, the one adjective you used, alleged, it does mean maybe, does it not?
I think so.
Well, that's the wrong adjective, because they do throw spitters on this team. It's not alleged.
Supposedly what they do, rather than loading it up with spit, which they do sometimes, is that they put ivory soap on the legs of the uniform pants, which blends in and you can't see it, and you're able to touch the leg and get that substance from the soap and load the ball up effectively that way.
Right, or Vaseline, any substance. And they're masters at it. They're able to do it well.
But here's a curious thing. If everybody on the staff is throwing spitters, which are supposed to produce ground balls, why does the A's outfield record so many putouts? Actually, if you look at the way in which the A's defense records outs, relatively few compared to the rest of the league are on ground balls.
Well, first of all, ground balls are usually off sinkers. A spitter does not have the true spin of a sinker. It'll come down a little bit, but you can throw it up and it can sail on you. It'll sink at times, so it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get ground balls.
Right. Left field, right.
A two-out hit for Evans, so I guess it depends then upon who's throwing the spitter. A guy like Perry or a Whitey Ford, who they always said loaded them up, they use that specifically to get double play balls and to get the ball hit on the ground, but I guess you don't have to.
Well, they were able to control it, and they had a way of keeping the ball down. If you can keep it down and get it to sink, obviously you're going to get the grounder. But you also have to get ahead of the hitters. You've got to get ahead, strike one, before you can start throwing the spitter. If you're always behind, you can't afford to throw it because you're going to end up walking a guy.
Jim Rice has a walk and an RBI single to continue his torrid hitting. 4 hits for him last night. And now Heath wants to talk to McLaughlin. There's nobody throwing in the Oakland bullpen.
I think we had some words here. I think Rice said something to McLaughlin. And now Heath went out there to talk to McLaughlin, and something was said that somebody didn't like.
No punches thrown, just friendly little team meeting for both squads.
Get to know your neighbor.
Cliff Johnson is talking to Tony Perez out there. A few folks came over the wall from the Red Sox bullpen, trotting in from right field. If I were McLaughlin, tangling with this guy would not be my idea of a good time.
I think Evans was probably saying that he was throwing a spitter because the one pitch before the base hit, it bounced about 48 feet out there, and I'm sure that might have been one that was loaded up.
And that was the first pitch after Evans had asked to see the ball, so maybe McLaughlin said, you think I'm throwing it? I'll show you one for real. I'll really load it up good.
Right, that could be.
Let's see if we can pick up what set it off.
Well, he was talking to Heath. Now, I don't know what's going unless Rice is mad at Heath and he's coming out after Heath. That's what is probably going on.
That's what it appears to be. Words between Heath and Rice. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Rice shoved the plate umpire, Russ Goetz, and if Goetz had the short fuse, he could have thrown Rice out of here.
Right. That could be an automatic ejection. I'm sure he didn't tell him he didn't like the way he wears his uniform.
Even that face bespeaks strength, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I tell you, though, there's nothing to be gained by having an argument like that, because all you have to do is get hurt and ask Rozema from Detroit about what happens in situations like that.
There's a breaking ball of some sort, depending upon who you talk to, legitimate or not legitimate. Yeah, there was that brawl a while back. A week or 10 days ago, the Twins and the Tigers, and Dave Rozema jumped right into it. He's out for the season as a result, and he was having a good season for the Tigers.
Believe me, there is nothing to be gained by it. The best that's going to happen is that you walk away and nothing happens. The worst that's going to happen is someone's going to be out for the rest of the year or seriously injured.
Any interesting brawls you remember from your days with the A's?
Not personally, but as much as I was on teams, that it seemed that whenever you turned around, we were doing something with Detroit. I can remember Sonny Siebert here pitching for Boston and having run-ins. When Billy Martin was managing Minnesota, we had him. Billy wants to know what's going on.
I would guess with those A's ball clubs, the best fights were probably in your own clubhouse.
We had a few of those. I think Billy is a little upset that Bo is... Why isn't he throwing the fastball? Does he want... Look at him. He's asking him to check the ball.
comes Goetz, and he might run Billy. Billy just showed Goetz up. Here we go. Now Goetz is smiling, though.
I think Russ is saying, hey, I didn't ask to look at the ball. Billy's saying, okay. And now Ralph wants to come out and find out what's going on.
Now what's bothering Ralph? He's giving it to Goetz pretty good.
Ralph is going into his act. I tell you, you know he's mad because he forgot to take off his glasses. He always takes off his glasses when he comes out to argue.
How much of this is psychological on Hout's part, saying, look, if Billy Martin wants to inject his own personality into the game, if he wants to try and charge his club up, I'm not going to sit by passively in the dugout. I've got to counter that.
I think it's showmanship. I think Ralph is not going to let Billy intimidate his players, and he's going to be just as aggressive and go out there and let them know what's happening.
Now here we go between Heath and Rice again. If this doesn't break out into something serious eventually, I'll be very surprised.
Well, it really becomes it's a two-man argument. It's Heath and Rice. For some reason, they're having problems getting along.
Both times the A's have come out of their dugout, and there are fewer players out this time than the first, but there are a few. Cliff Johnson has been the first man out, and he might be the only guy on Oakland's roster that could match up with Jim Rice, and Johnson is playing the role of the enforcer for the A's.
Jeff Newman's got good size, but he's got his hands full with Dwight Evans down there. So I don't know what's going on. Obviously, it has to do something with the baseball and putting the foreign substance on it. We'll watch McLaughlin's right hand before he throws the ball here. That they're insinuating possibly he's getting some substance from somewhere, but he threw 2 breaking balls.
Count is 1-1 to Jim Rice, whose batting average now is up over 300 at 303, 7 homers, 28 ribbies. Somebody ought to grab a stopwatch. This may set the record for the longest time at bat. Yaz is on deck. Low 2-1.
Well, it's going to hoop and psych who out. Bo went to his forehead like he was getting something. Threw a fastball. Thrown 2 breaking balls. Rice is determined to watch him closely.
Three balls and 1 strike. We're tied at 4, last half of the 4th inning. McLaughlin has issued 3 base on balls. He has been victimized by a couple of errors behind him. He has yielded 4 hits, and there's no help in sight because the bullpen is quiet.
Well, if they got 2 catchers down there, so it only leaves, it looks like 2 or 3 pitchers, so they don't have much help.
Son, you're on your own, says Billy. Foul back. Highly touted youngster for the Seattle Mariners has hit a grand slammer, and in the 5th, the Mariners lead Milwaukee 7-1. A grimace from Sal Bando. He feels the pain of his old ball club this afternoon. It's hard to be objective when you're only a year removed from playing with those guys, isn't it? Runner going, and Rice swings and misses to end the inning. So Rice's entire time at bat seemed like it took about 15 minutes. It ends with a K in the scorebook, and the scoreboard still reading 4-4, and we'll be back after these messages from your local station.
Well, like you, Tony and I have been sitting here watching the Jim Rice, Mike Heath hour and the other game, something that maybe Dr. Pacheco might have put on. And we don't have quite that excitement. Tony, Atlanta should be way out in front with 5 base on balls, but it's still 2-1 in the bottom of the 4th.
Well, the excitement we've had, Bob Denier, one of the fastest men in baseball, threw out Hubbard at home plate to take the Atlanta Braves out of a rally in the 1st inning, and then Rhett Butler, one of the other 2 fastest men in all of baseball, made a fine running catch in left center field. And we've had some fine plays here, too. Here's what happened. Trio hits this ball with a man on base, deep to left center field, and Rhett Butler just outruns the baseball. Right in front of the warning track. May have saved a run or so.
just to give you an update, there was just an error, so the Atlanta Braves have 2 men on, but they trailed 2-1, bottom of the 4th. Let's go back to Boston.
Thanks, Joe. Here in the top half of the 5th, Davey Lopes led off by grounding out to Jerry Remy at second base. And so with 1 out and nobody aboard, Cliff Johnson, the DH, stands in. Johnson has singled and grounded out. And takes a strike for Bob Stanley, whose record on the year is 3-1, his ERA 3.20. He has only 1 save to his credit. That's largely due to the fact that he has a thankless job. He is the long or middle man. But today he has a chance to pick up the win.
I'm surprised with his stuff that they haven't used him more as a short man, but they do have some quality people out there, led by Mark Clear, and so they use him, like you say, for the long relief.
Strike you call, 1 and 2. Clear, of course, is the classic short man. Now look at this. Russ Goetz, just a typical day at the office.
He's saying, Clifford, I thought that was a pretty good pitch.
It looks like Russ is doing more of the talking than Heathcliff is.
I think they all know they're on TV. Let's see what the pitch looks like. Questionable height-wise. It would look like it was over the plate.
At the knees, says Russ Goetz. 1-2 pitch. He misses the change. He actually got a small piece of it, but Gedman held on. And Johnson, without further comment, walks away. You know, Davey Lopes told you in the pregame show, Sal, that the strike zone is bigger, at least he thinks so, in the American League as compared to the National.
I would have to agree with him. From playing in spring training and World Series games, there is a big difference between the umpiring. Now, what you're finding in the American League, more umpires are going to the protector inside, much like the National League, so now it's becoming a little bit more consistent. But as you see, Russ Goetz has the outside protector, which means his strike zone is going to be bigger.
Rudy, who walked twice, now has a single to left. Can you explain that a bit more, Sal? Why does the outside protector, as opposed to the inside, affect how you view pitches?
Well, it doesn't allow you to get as low. So because you can't get as low, your perspective is much different. So the ball that's on the knees from the position that Russ Goetz would be on looks like a strike. When you get down lower, you have a better angle at looking at it, and you're able to see that it might be low. And consequently, when the ball is up, you're also able to see it. It becomes at eye level, and you call a higher strike.
Jeff Newman, who has grounded out twice, lowering his average to 275. Taps 1 foul, 0-1.
But there is one big disadvantage to the inside protector. They squat behind the catcher, and they'll get, in this situation, on the catcher's left ear. They have trouble seeing the outside corner. So after a while, it becomes somewhat of a guess if it is on that corner.
Threw him the sinker that time and made him miss, 0-2. And Rudy, the runner at first. Top half of the 5th, tied at 4. And Stanley ahead of Newman, 0-2. Took something off and missed, 1-2.
I don't think we're going to see Stanley finish this game simply because he hasn't gone this long. And with Claire and Bergemeyer being used last night, Aponte has a good chance of getting into this ballgame and finishing it up.
Saw Detroit with the lead over California. I wonder what Larry Herndon's doing today for the Tigers. Talk about hot. This will be foul. Had the 3 home runs in 1 game, then came back 2 nights later with 5 hits. Even though they lost last night, he had 3 more hits.
That's a good couple of months right there.
Tigers trail the Red Sox by 1 in the American League East. Sidearm, bat breaks in half. Hoffman fields it and throws him out. Lansford had to move further at third base than Hoffman. Hoffman had a short trip to the ball. Lansford had to run like crazy to get away from half of the flying bat. At the end of 4 1/2 at Fenway, we're still tied at 4 apiece. Yastrzemski, Lansford, and Stapleton to face Bo McLaughlin in the Red Sox 5th. But first, let's go to Atlanta.
Okay, Bob Costas and Sal Bando, thank you very much. Joe Garagiola and Tony Kubek here in Atlanta. where we have nobody out. Base runners at second and third. 2-1 is the score. The Philadelphia Phillies are out in front. Krukow opened this inning with a single. Dernier doubled to right, and that's where we stand. Pete Rose, the batter. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Down the line, it is a fair ball. 2 runs will score. Here comes one. Dernier will score. Pete Rose has himself a double, and we've got a 4-1 ball game. Phillies out in front.
McWilliams, a left-hander. First couple of times to Rose, threw him some fork balls. That time Rose got a fastball. Pete going with the ball very well. Atlanta, Joe, you know, a left-hander is tough to beat, this Philadelphia Phillies ball club, because of all the right-handed power they have. McWilliams struggling right now. Bob Gibson has been out 1 time till this point.
So it's a 4-1 ball game, top of the 4th. Phillies are out in front. Joe Torre's coming out to make a change. Let's go to Boston.
Well, that's what I'd call a timely report. As soon as we go to Atlanta, Pete Rose delivers the big hit. Here's Yastrzemski at the plate. He just missed an extra base hit a moment ago, lining one foul into the right field corner.
You know, I noticed on Carl, he's got that a bigger hole in the ear flap, and I would imagine the only reason that's there is his ear might be sensitive and it squashes it too much on a regular ear flap. As you'll see him turn his head, you'll see it's a bigger hole there.
The 1-2 pitch is a change-up, and look at Russ Goetz. He says, this has been too tough a day already. Get me out of harm's way.
Get me back to Pennsylvania where I belong.
Watch this. Oh!
It went right under Heath's legs and got Russ.
Considering the replay, I'd say that Heath was in far greater jeopardy. Again, McLaughlin with the changeup. Now the count is full at 3-2.
There you see the ear flap that we're talking about. That's bigger than normal size hole that any of the batting helmets have.
And the payoff pitch is fouled back. You saw a moment ago on the screen, Yaz, the only American League player with over 3,000 hits and 400 home runs. Al Kaline came close, 399 lifetime homers. And, of course, in the National League, the likes of Musial and Aaron and Mays passed both milestones.
And Carl's hit a lot of home runs in a very tough ballpark for left-handed hitters. This is extremely difficult.
3-2 again. Straight away, actually into left center, and Henderson gets over to take it. Bossetti had him played, swung around into right center, so it was an easier play for Henderson on what normally would have been a center fielder's ball.
Here's Henderson drifting over. The wind's bringing it over a little bit, blowing from right to left. I'll tell you, Bo McLaughlin has done an outstanding job considering the defense behind him and the trouble he's been in. He has held his ground and has pitched extremely well.
Carney Lansford cuts on the first one, lost it foul. Will Newman have enough room? Yep, nice play.
You know, you're fair game if you go into the opposition's dugout, and they don't have to help you. And I think Jeff, being aware of that, as you see him here, he picks up the dugout where he's at. Boston players are there to help him, but they really don't have to. It shows you the good sportsmanship, because anything can happen when you fall down those steps.
Well, you didn't notice the one guy placing the banana peel down. Oakland had a 3-0 lead at the end of the first half inning, but you know Billy Martin didn't feel safe, because over their last 14 games, the A's have yielded 112 runs and 153 hits, an average of 8 runs and 11 hits a game. This is going to be a 1-2-3 inning, however, as Stapleton grounds out. So Yastrzemski, Lansford, and Stapleton give McLaughlin no trouble in the 5th. And at the end of 5 complete at Fenway, the A's 4 and the Red Sox 4. Heath, Sexton, and Bossetti coming up in the 6th. Heath had an eventful half inning a while back, exchanging pleasantries with Jim Rice.
I think they were discussing where they're going to go to dinner. I don't think Heath wanted to go where Rice was going to go.
Heath has a couple of doubles and 3 of the 4 Oakland runs batted in today. Jim Rice would dearly love to take a base hit away from Heath right now. Wouldn't that make him happy? Hot shot down the line, looks like a sure hit, and Rice races over to make the play.
Or throw him out at second, trying to stretch a single into a double.
Foul ball for strike one. The first 2.5 innings saw 8 runs scored. The last 2.5 have been scoreless. Top half of the 6th inning, Sexton and Bossetti will follow Heath. He's got the eye black to keep the sun out of his eyes, but it's an overcast day today at Fenway. He doesn't really need it. Here's Heath trying to drop one down as Lansford was playing him deep at third base and looked to bunt his way on, but it's strike 2. Wayne Gross has moved into the on-deck circle. He's going to bat for Sexton. Stanley comes sidearm and misses low, 1-2. Dennis Martinez was the shutout winner. It's a final now from Toronto. The Orioles beat the Blue Jays 6-0. 2-2 to Heath. Stanley has been in there since 2 outs in the first when Bob Ojeda departed. Strike 3 call.
Well, Bob's got his stuff going now. Good hard sinker. Outside corner. Heath looking for that ball on the inside. That's where he throws that sinker. He got it away from him for a good pitch.
Now Stanley faces Gross batting for Sexton, and Gross doubtless will remain in the game and play third base.
Wayne Gross.
This will be his first left-hander he's had to pitch against. It'll be interesting to see how he works him.
The entire lineup was loaded with right-handed hitters to face Ojeda, and I wonder whether that had any effect on Ralph Houck's decision to go with the very quick hook, thinking, well, if I bring in Stanley, I can turn the percentages in my favor all the way up and down the lineup for the rest of the day.
I think it was one of the factors, but I think also Billy Martin's limited in who he's able to use because of injuries.
Stanley took something off that, a ball and a strike.
And he wants Russ to know where that pitch was. It looked like an awful good pitch from here. He's still shaking his head about it.
This is low, 2-1. Is it true, Sal? Have you observed it that the American League has gone, as Carl Yastrzemski said, breaking ball mad?
Well, I think the American League has always been basically a breaking ball league. I think now with the younger pitchers learning to throw more breaking balls, I think Carl is right. We're starting to see it more and more. They challenge you less, where in the National League, it's a fastball league.
Ralph Houck, number 3 catcher for so many years with the Yankees, late 40s, early 50s. Then the manager at Denver when players like our own Tony Kubek and Bobby Richardson and Ryan Duran were there. And then he succeeded Casey Stengel in 1961 and won 3 straight Yankee pennants before going upstairs to be the GM. Gross draws a 1-out walk. You know, the Red Sox have a catcher named Roger LaFrancois, their number 3 catcher, who has been on the roster since opening day and yet does not have a single at-bat. Ralph Houck, in 4 seasons as the Yankees' number 3 catcher, had 29 at-bats in those 4 seasons. So he says LaFrancois is my Ralph Houck.
I thought that was an interesting story that Ralph was telling us, too, about the home run.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a minute. The pitch to Bossetti, missing outside for ball 1. Ralph Houck never hit a major league home run. But in 1947, he hit a ball off the foul pole, which under the present rules and the rules which have existed throughout most of baseball history would have been a home run. But Bossetti hitting one just foul down the line. See where that area juts out there in left field? If a ball is hit fair over the bag, the shortstop here at Fenway, unlike any other ballpark, has to run out down the left field line in case the ball hits off that abutment and bounces back to him. You can hold the runner on what normally would be a double. You can hold him to a single.
Plus, as a third baseman, because of the shallow fences and because of the line close to the stand, you don't have to guard the line as close because it's going to be a double either way. So you can play off the line and take away the hit to your left.
So anyway, back to Houck. The rule used to be that if the ball hit the foul pole and bounced into the stands on the fair side of the line, it was a home run. If it bounced into the stands on the foul side, it was a ground rule double. If it bounced back onto the field, even if it hit the foul pole above fence level, it was in play. Bossetti taking inside. 2 balls and a strike. And Ralph Houk's only chance at his one and only Major League home run hit the foul pole, bounced into the stands in foul territory for a ground rule double, and they changed the rule the very next year to what it is today. Any ball hits the foul pole, it's a home run, which makes sense.
That's tough luck right there.
3-1 to Bossetti. Gross, who walked, pinch hitting for Sexton, is at first with 1 out. We're in the top half of the 6th. Clete Boyer has given the sign to Bossetti. The runner isn't going, and the count is now full. Billy Martin doesn't always. You should take a look at what's coming up next week. I'll be with Dick Enberg in Montreal, the Reds and the Expos. 2 clubs expected to be contenders who have struggled. Or Chicago at Cleveland in the second half of the doubleheader. Your old Brewer mates at California against Reggie Jackson and the Surging Angels. Or we'll turn it around. The Phillies are in Atlanta this week. Next week, the Braves will be at Veterans Stadium. It's next Saturday, the runner going, and yet it's hit right to the perfect place. Remy is able to field it, step on second, and throw him out at first. So the double play gets Stanley and the Red Sox out of the top half of the 6th, and at the end of 5 1/2, on Helmet Day at Fenway Park, it's the A's 4 and the Red Sox 4.
Joe Garagiola with Tony Kubek here in Atlanta. You saw Pete Rose drive in 2 runs, and Bo Diaz on a hit-and-run play drove in Rose that gave the Phillies 5. Now the Braves are coming back. Murphy, you see him. This is his 13th home run of the year, and just under half of those home runs have been in the opposite field, just like that one. So it's a 5-2 ball game, and we've got a base hit here. 5-2, Phillies lead. We're in the bottom of the 5th.
It's like running a highlight film down there in Atlanta. As soon as we push the button and go there, somebody belts one out of the park.
Well, the way ball flies in that ballpark, and because of the wall here, we have both offensive ballparks, and things happen.
Gedman, Hoffman, and Miller coming up. It was Gedman's second inning single, leading off that frame, which started a 4-run Red Sox rally. We're tied at 4 right now. Watch the play which ended the last inning for Oakland. If the hit and run is not on, it's very possible that Remy is not in position to make this play.
Well, it probably wasn't the hit and run as much as he had 3-2 and he was running. Because he was running, the second baseman covered, and he only catches that ball if he's covering the bag. Otherwise, it's first and third possible.
1-1 pitch. Chopper, but Gedman doesn't run very well, so Lopes has time to throw him out. Gedman has hit the ball in that direction 3 straight times. Once it got through, twice Lopes made the play on him. 1 out in the Red Sox 6th.
Can't help but feel, again, that Bo McLaughlin has really settled down and is just pitching a whale of a game for Oakland, and he's really giving that bullpen a needed rest, especially in these middle innings. If he can last at least through the 7th or 8th, he's going to really be able to do his job.
His first start since the 1979 season when he was with Atlanta, so he hasn't gone this long in quite some time. The A's have lost 3 straight. The Red Sox, check it, the A's have lost 4 straight. The Red Sox have won 3 straight. A ball and a strike to Hoffman. Center fielder Rick Miller on deck. He hits the change to center field. Bossetti started back, now comes in, 2 out.
Bo is starting to get his breaking ball over much more. He's changing speeds a lot better. He's keeping some of the hitters off balance, and with that wind helping him a little bit, he's able to get them to hit off their front foot and just hit some lazy fly balls.
With the speed of Henderson in left, he covers more ground than anybody from that spot, and with the relatively small area in left field, what does the center fielder do differently at Fenway for the A's in terms of positioning himself for hitters?
Well, I I think the center fielder has to be aware of right center field because it's such a wide open area. The right fielder must cheat towards the line because of that the box situation out there. So the center fielder has to be aware of his left side and cover that territory most of all. The wall is going to stop anything hit to his right in deep, but he's got to protect from anything to his left.
The third baseman, Wayne Gross, is in protecting against a possible bunt by Miller.
This is a treacherous ballpark right over second base between the center field and right field. More balls drop there than any other place.
A ball and 2 strikes to Miller. McLaughlin struggled early, but going back to the last out, well, let's see, the last couple outs in the second inning, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. He's retired 15 of the last 16 hitters he's faced.
And he's really calmed down since the incident with Rice and Heath. I don't know if that gave him the needed rest that he needed or just gave him the confidence, but he really seems to be in command out there.
Line shot and snared at first base by Jeff Newman. So it's another 1-2-3 Red Sox inning. And at the end of 6, it's 4-6-2 for the A's, 4-4-2 for the Red Sox. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. Tomorrow on NBC Sports World, the best of boxing as the pride of New Jersey, undefeated Bobby Ches, takes on Bob Iceman Coolidge in a live scheduled 10-round middleweight battle, plus the centuries-old traditional sport of the Far East. Japanese sumo wrestling is featured from Tokyo and from Las Vegas. You'll see some unbelievable muscles on both men and women in the Mixed Pairs World Bodybuilding Championships, all tomorrow at 4 Eastern Time on NBC's Sports World. So the contours of the bodies between the sumo wrestlers and the bodybuilders out in Las Vegas will provide a bit of a contrast. As we start the 7th inning, Chicken Stanley is due up, but Danny Goodwin, who's been getting a lot of duty as a designated hitter lately for the A's, what with the injuries which have hit them in the past several days, Goodwin will pinch hit and takes a strike.
I'm a little surprised they'd use Danny up in a situation like this leading off. I would think that they would pinch hit the young shortstop that they've called up.
Tony Phillips, who is a switch hitter.
Right, and since he's going to go in to play short.
Well, if Goodwin gets aboard, probably Phillips will run for him.
Right, except we've taken Goodwin's bat out of the lineup now if you want to use him someplace else to pinch hit in any run-producing situation.
Goodwin is behind on the count 0-2. We go back to the top of the order and Ricky Henderson when Goodwin is done. Top half of the 7th, what started out as a slugfest, has settled into a duel between McLaughlin and Stanley. Goodwin taps it foul.
Well, players have a tendency to call these next 3 innings in a tie ball game the dog innings. And if you've got any dog in you and you're scrappy and you're aggressive, it's going to come out in these 3 innings. This is where the ball game's won or lost.
Oakland is in the middle of an East Coast road trip. And that's never easy for a club that has to come all the way across country. Yeah, they have not been playing that well. As I mentioned, losers of 4 in a row. How did that affect you playing with a West Coast team when you had to come east for a swing of maybe 10, 12 games?
Well, I don't think it really, what bothered you more than coming east, the time factor, was the humidity. As you get in the summer, Oakland being very cool, then you would come back east to Boston, New York, Baltimore, and the humidity would just seem to drain you, and it was very difficult getting used to it, and you couldn't wait to get back to Oakland in the cooler weather.
Oakland and San Francisco just across the bay from one another, but Oakland a nicer place to play than Candlestick Park, right?
Definitely. Oakland was cool, but it kept you strong. It wasn't the unbearable type of cold weather where San Francisco got nasty. In fact, if you got any precipitation, it would turn to snow over there.
Bob Stanley with the 2-2 to Danny Goodwin. Just inside, count is full.
Get into the position now that every runner that gets on base with these next 3 innings are going to become very big for any of the offensive teams, moving them over and putting them in scoring positions.
He got him. corner and at the knees for a called strike 3. Russ Goetz not ranking as the most popular man in Fenway Park today, especially if you took a poll in the Oakland dugout.
There's Billy letting him know that the ball was down. It's very difficult to judge from the bench if a ball is over the plate or as far as inside or outside, but you can tell the height of it.
Now it's just a stare down between Goetz and Martin. No words spoken, but the faces say it all.
Look at the way Henderson has changed his stance for Stanley. He has opened up. His front leg is more towards third base now because Stanley's running that ball down and in on him. He wants to be able to get his body out of the way and pull it right there.
He's got his weight on his back foot in that stance. What does that do for a hitter, and what possible weaknesses does it expose?
Well, it allows him to wait a little bit longer, and as strong as he is, he's able to get his bat through the hitting zone. But the only problem is he's not able to come off his back foot very well, and that's the secret of hitting, is be able to shift your weight from your back foot to your front foot. He's back there too much.
And yet he's hit over 300 the last 2 years, so it must work for him.
Well, because of his speed, he's able to get a lot of leg hits, and he's able to bunt a lot. But as far as just a pure hitting stance, that isn't very advantageous.
Down the right field line with Stapleton in pursuit, but it's out of play. The count is 2-2 to the Oakland left fielder. He doesn't do it in the exaggerated fashion of a Mel Ott, but Henderson lifts the lead foot off the ground as the pitch is on the way.
Right, and now he's got his weight. As he does that, his weight even shifts more to his back foot, where he's already established that he's sitting on his back foot, but he will have problems getting off it and coming through the ball onto his front foot. And the secret of hitting is hitting against your front foot, not on your back foot.
Slow roller. Remy is going to have to hurry and gets it.
As you saw in that swing, he wasn't able to get the bat through the hitting area as quick as you should. And because of it, he was jammed. And I think that comes from putting too much weight on his back foot. He's back there now, and the ball will get on top of him. See, he's up. Now he raises, and he can't get out in front. Well, that's the foul ball he hit to first.
Now watch the race between Remy, who throws him out, and Henderson, who was only beaten by about a step. Henderson also wags the bat quite a bit as the pitch comes in. I think that's a good idea?
Right. You want to do something, have some movement up at the plate so that you're not standing dead still. And by moving your bat, you're able to relax your arms.
Lopes with a ground ball to Hoffman, which took a tricky hop, but Hoffman, who already has committed 2 errors today, was able to handle it and throw Lopes out. The 7th inning stretch is coming up, and it's about Jimmy Fox, who played for both these ball clubs, the A's when they were in Philadelphia, and the Red Sox. So here's another edition of 7th Inning.
Old Spice presents. The 7th inning stretch, brought to you by Old Spice Aftershave and Cologne, the fresh, clean, masculine scent women love.
A brawny slugger with bulging blacksmith's arms, Jimmy Fox was also a versatile athlete of remarkable consistency. His career spanned 20 seasons, most with Connie Mack's Philadelphia Athletics, and Fox also starred with the Bo Sox. Always brave in the clutch, Fox gained 3 RBI titles in all and batted .344 in World Series play. A steady performer afield, he could catch, play first, third, and even pitch. For 12 consecutive seasons, Fox drove in over 100 runs and belted at least 30 homers. In 1932, Fox hit 58 homers and won the first of 3 MVP awards. A year later, the Maryland Mauler captured the American League's Triple Crown. Jimmy Fox, best remembered as one of baseball's most powerful hitters.
The A's recently sent Rob Kishalo to Milwaukee and brought this young man, Tony Phillips, up from Tacoma. He's 22 years old, and he's been splitting shortstop duties with Chicken Stanley, who started today's game. But after Stanley was removed for pinch hitter Danny Goodwin in the last inning, Phillips comes into the game, and he'll hit in the 9th spot. He's a switch hitter. We mentioned Fred Chicken Stanley, a chicken of another sort, the famous San Diego chicken. Not one of the all-time favorites of this guy, Ralph Hout. Last year in Texas, the Rangers brought the chicken in for a special day, and here's Remy trying to bunt to get on, but Wayne Gross is almost on top of him down the line at third. I mention this because Byron Day, who's up here in the booth with us, did his piece all about special days at the ballpark and mascots during the pregame show. Well, the Chicken was putting on his act in Texas, and Houck got ejected from the game, arguing that the Chicken's antics were distracting his players. Remy takes high. A week ago in Kansas City in a game seen on NBC, although he wasn't thrown out, Houck was also arguing, get this Chicken out of here.
Well, I think Ralph is definitely from the old school. He believes in promotions, but he doesn't believe in clowning around on the field, and he just didn't feel that was the right place for it. And, you know, baseball's entertainment. Whatever turns you on is going to turn you on, and I can see Ralph's point, but yet I think it is entertainment.
The setting here at Fenway, a traditionalist's dream, real grass, an old ballpark. A promotion today, helmet day, but no mascot, nothing which transcends the action and gets in the way, if that's the way you look at it, and that's the way some people do view the mascots.
In fact, they never had advertisement in this ballpark. All they had was the Jimmy Fund until they put the new scoreboard on.
Remy goes down swinging, which is a rarity. He usually makes contact.
24. Dwight Evans.
Dwight Evans is the hitter. He's walked twice and singled. We're in the bottom half of the 7th, and we're tied at 4 apiece. The attendance today at Fenway, 32,654. They'll probably have something close to that here tomorrow, but half of them will be armed with transistor radios following the Celtics.
You know, I think Dwight started the misunderstanding a couple innings ago, because I think he accused McLaughlin of throwing a spitter when he got his base hit. Now he started him off with 2 breaking balls.
You mentioned earlier that McLaughlin is what the ball players call a dart thrower. On that last delivery to Evans, it was a very exaggerated example of that. Almost a stop in mid-motion and then a flick of the wrist.
Right. And what happens when he leaves that breaking ball high like that, his elbow gets out there too quick and almost in front of his wrist, and that's why he hangs the ball.
It's on the corner. 2-1 the count to Evans.
Now, you talked about Henderson lifting up his front foot. Now watch how Evans sways back here, and he gets sees up on his toe.
Into right center and fairly deep, but Rudy is able to get back there, and he puts it away.
And that's the difference of shifting your weight off your back foot onto your front foot. You can generate more power and able to get the bat through the hitting area.
Here's Jim Rice, who was in the middle of that brouhaha back in the 4th inning. Ultimately, he struck out to end that frame, which gave Mike Heath tremendous satisfaction as he and Heath nearly came to blows, and on one occasion both benches emptied, and on another occasion about half of each squad came out.
Well, Jim didn't make any visual contact with Mike Heath as he stepped up there, so they're obviously not communicating.
Since an Evans single in the 4th, and here's the changeup low and inside, McLaughlin has retired. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 men in a row. They're going to say that ball hit the bat of Rice.
It didn't look like it. In fact, Rice is saying it didn't hit his bat. It looked like more it hit the ground. Let's see if he gets his bat out there. Well, he might have. He might have.
I don't think so, frankly, based on that replay.
Well, it doesn't matter what you and I think. Russ Goetz thinks it did.
I can't recall a game where between the 2 pitchers, Stanley and especially McLaughlin, I've seen more change-ups and off-speed pitches. This is like Stu Miller against Phil Negro.
Well, you're dealing with good fastball hitting ball clubs, so they're trying to keep them off balance by mixing in the changes.
McLaughlin much more so than Stanley, who'll come at you with that hard slider and sinker.
Well, here's a key situation. 3-1 count. You need a run here. Fastball hitter.
Line to center, but Bossetti has a beat on it. And again, the Red Sox go down 1-2-3 for the 3rd consecutive inning. We've gone through 7 at Fenway Park. And the A's and the Red Sox are still tied at 4 apiece.
Hi, I'm Ted Williams. You know, over the years, the All-Star Game has provided me with many thrills. This is the 13th consecutive year that baseball fans have voted to select the All-Star teams. You can help choose the starting lineups for the All-Star Game in Montreal on July 13th by voting in this year's election. Ballots are free at retail stores featuring a Gillette All-Star display and at the major and minor league parks. Balloting ends July 4th, so be sure to get out and vote.
Furnished by Major League Baseball and Gillette.
Don't miss a special doubleheader. The Reds take on the Expos, or the White Sox battle the Indians, followed by the Braves and the Phillies, or the Brewers against the Halos. Catch it all on NBC Sports next Saturday.
Cliff Johnson leads it off. He'll be followed by Joe Rudy and Jeff Newman. We're in the top of the 8th, and Bob Stanley, since relieving Bob Ojeda in the first inning, has allowed only 3 base hits. A moment ago, you saw an episode from Johnson's last at-bat when he was literally nose-to-nose with Russ Goetz. A ball and a strike. Matt Keogh, who of course is normally a starter, is warming up now in the Oakland bullpen. Perhaps just getting some work in, or perhaps with the depleted nature of Billy Martin's relief corps, maybe he'd use him here for
I would say he's warming up because he might be using him here. Usually if a player is just going to do some soft tossing, he does it early in the game. But being late in the game like this, they're using one of their starters to help fill in late inning relief. They had to go to their bullpen a lot in Detroit, so I'm sure Matt's out there to possibly come into this game. There's Clifford telling Russ he didn't think his opinion on that pitch was very good.
Cliff Johnson is one of the all-time easygoing, nice guys.
Oh, he really is. He's a big, strong-looking guy. Everybody thinks he's mean, but he's really like a teddy bear. Just a nice person.
On the changeup, Hoffman makes the play and throws him out. Johnson was a little bit out in front of that pitch and looked like he hesitated for a second just to avoid being so far in front that he'd swing and miss it.
It was an off-speed breaking ball that fooled him. And with 2 strikes, he had to make contact, and he did. You're exactly right. He just hit it into the ground and got him to be out of balance and, do what he has to do, is hit the ball on the ground.
Clete Boyer, the third base coach. His brother Ken, of course, battling cancer. Perhaps watching our telecast back in St. Louis. And once again, everybody in baseball with best wishes to Ken Boyer.
Our prayers and thoughts are with him, and he was a battler as a player. We know he's a battler right now with cancer.
Looking at Clete Boyer, Billy Martin does not always send the signs through Boyer. Sometimes he'll give them himself from the dugout or use a coach in the dugout next to him, or sometimes through Jackie Moore, the first base coach, anything to play games with the opposition and throw them off.
Billy's talking to someone over there. I don't know who he's pointing to. It might be the Boston guy.
Rudy, who's walked twice in single, is behind 0-2, and Stanley moves him off the plate. When you played against a Billy Martin-managed team, did you come into the game expecting something wild to happen?
Well, when he took over Oakland, we did. Between the running and the plays that they used, bunt plays, squeezing, he made you aware at all times that you had to be mentally ready on the field. When he managed New York, it wasn't that way, or Detroit. He just went ahead and did the normal things that most normal clubs do.
I think Billy ball is more of an attitude than it is a specific strategy. In fact, the A's sacrificed less than many clubs. They led the American League in home runs last year, which would surprise a lot of people. I think it's aggressiveness rather than specific strategies. Lansford fields it near the line, and coming off the bag to make the tag is Stapleton. So a nice play on both ends.
Well, Joe didn't really start running right away. He thought the ball was going to be foul. It stayed fair. Gave Carney a chance to field the ball. And the difficult part of this play was just the angle of the throw and not so much catching it. With Joe's speed, he straightens up all right. His angle is just off and carries it into the runner.
First baseman Jeff Newman has grounded out 3 times and also committed an error in the field, so he'd like to get things turning his way in this at-bat. His average at 271. This will be his 4th ground out. Hoffman, a busy day, and a 1-2-3 8th inning for the A's. Coming 2-0 for the Red Sox. Yastrzemski, Lansford, and Stapleton in the last half of the 8th at Fenway Park. This is the kind of place where baseball was meant to be played. Natural grass, a ballpark with peculiarities which affect the playing of the game, the wall in left, the corner in right, and the classic ball player in the classic ballpark, Carl Yastrzemski.
He's really done wonders in this ballpark, in any ballpark. He's just a beautiful person, and I tell you, he's a tribute to the game.
Yaz came in hitting .340, but he's 0 for 3 so far today. That changes, a base hit to right. Rudy into the corner, and Yaz is going to try to stretch it. 42-year-old legs, get him there.
That's outstanding hustle by Yastrzemski. In fact, Davey Lopes cuts the ball. If he doesn't cut it, it's going to be a lot closer at second, and I'm very surprised that he cut that ball. But the last person who thought Carl Yastrzemski was going to turn that into a double was probably Joe Rudy.
Very often, cliche words like leadership are thrown around when you're covering a sports event. That is a leadership play. The Red Sox offense has been dormant since the second inning. Here's a 42-year-old guy who hits a ball that is not by any means an automatic double, and he takes off and stretches it into 2.
And he's got a pulled groin muscle, some bad calf muscles, and he doesn't stop one bit. He turns it on right here. He cuts the corner very close to allow him to get to second base a lot quicker. And a good slide. And I'll tell you, that's just plain hustle and just smart baseball playing by Carl Yastrzemski.
Yaz now comes out, and Reed Nichols, number 51, a reserve outfielder, goes in to run for it. Swinging away and hitting it to the right side. Now let's see if it's deep enough for him to tag. Rudy makes the catch. Nichols is going to try to go, and he's there.
Well, it turned out to be a very good play. I question why he wasn't fronting the ball, but it worked out. It was a fairly shallow fly ball, but it was towards the line, and Nichols, with good speed, was able to make it to third base. I tell you, though, by swinging away, the chances of getting a base hit are okay, but you have more chances of being able to make it out.
You could read Yaz's lips there. Tag up. Look at him, still in the ball game after leaving it, cheerleading on the bench.
And you couldn't have a better guy up at the plate if you're Boston than Stapleton, because he uses all areas of the field. He can bunt. He makes good contact. He doesn't strike out. And the ball game is on the line right now.
Tom Underwood and Billy Martin's bullpen. Hayes infield is in. Henderson, the best arm of the 3 outfielders. Stapleton hits it foul, strike 1.
I'll tell you another thing. When you're trying to hit a fly ball in a situation like this, the best way to go about it is try to hit the ball the opposite way. That stops you from pulling any ground balls to the infielders. And the way Stapleton handles the bat, this is really right up his alley, because he hits the ball well the other way, and chances are he could loft the fly ball out.
Carl Yastrzemski gave his team a chance to go in front. Let's see if they capitalize. Stapleton trying to do exactly what you were talking about, but now he's behind 0-2, Sal.
Well, now it's no more fly ball. It's making contact with the infield drawn in. You're still at a hitter's delight, but you have to make contact. There's no way you can get that run in by not making contact.
Stapleton's overall batting average, .252, 3 homers, 17 runs batted in. A lot of baseball experience in that shot. How can Yaz? Stapleton wants to compose himself.
There's no more wasted pitches in a situation like this. You've got to go right after the hitter. And I would venture to say he wants to keep the ball down.
Kept it way down, and Heath had to block it to prevent the wild pitch.
When you got your infield in, and when you're in a fly ball situation, the pitcher's job is to keep the ball down. I'm surprised he threw a breaking ball. A sinker is usually the pitch you'd like to throw in a situation like this. And as a hitter, you'd like to look for a ball up, but he's in a situation where he has to protect the plate, and he just has to make contact.
See, that's a Stapleton specialty. Rarely strikes out. Catcher Rich Gedman on deck. 1-2 pitch. This might drop. Rudy can't get there. RBI hit.
Well, he went with the pitch. It looked like it was ball 2, but he makes good contact and went the opposite way. And that's the way the Red Sox have been playing all year during the can win ball games like Yastrzemski, taking a single and turning it into a double.
Reed Nichols, who ran for Yaz, scores the go-ahead run. The Sox are in front 5-4, and now the hits are even at 6 apiece.
Here's the pitch. It's down. It's ball 2. Stapleton making good contact, going the opposite way all the way.
Reaction on the Red Sox bench, led by Yastrzemski. It's like a 20-year-old kid, a cheerleader.
I think he is 20 years old the way he swings.
Gedman is 1 for 3. That takes a strike.
You know, you hear about all the stories of Fenway Park, but yet what gets the big run? A single into a double, getting the guy over on a fly ball, and a little base hit to right field.
McLaughlin. He had been cruising since the second. The Yastrzemski double, an advancing fly ball, a blue single, and he's behind 5-4. A ball and a strike to Gedman.
Dave Stapleton has good speed. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they give him a chance to steal this if he gets 2 strikes. But being Gedman a full hitter, they don't want to take the hole away between second and first.
1-1 pitch with 1 out. Not before they chase Stapleton back to first. Coming up for the A's in the top half of the ninth, it's due to be Mike Heath, Wayne Gross, and Rick Bossetti.
The way Stanley's pitching, they've got a lot of work in front of them if they're going to score a run.
Foul back 1-2. As always on our Game of the Week telecast, we have to select the player of the game. And I would say that if Stanley protects this lead in the ninth inning, I'd give it to him. Coming in with his ball club already down 3-0 with 2 outs in the first, and pitching, if he gets through the ninth, almost the equivalent of a complete game victory.
I said earlier in the game I didn't think he'd go the whole way because he isn't used to it, but I tell you, he's just a bull of a player out there, and he's just done one whale of a job, only giving up 3 hits. He's done a great job.
Is Stapleton a threat to run, or is Houck a threat to put the hit and run on in this situation?
They won't put the hit and run on with Gedman because he's got too much power. Stapleton is a threat to run, but again, they don't want to get, he's a pull hitter, they don't want to take the hole away from him between second and first. Let him go first and third on a single here.
Watch Gedman at the plate, how he holds the bat almost flat behind him. That is another Charlie Lau and Walt Periniak theory. They say eventually you're going to have to get the bat flat in the course of your swing to bring it across the plate anyway. Started flat.
That's what Carl Yastrzemski started to do this year. He's flattened his bat out. He's peeking over there at first. I'll tell you though, if Gedman was to make it out, I would say Stapleton would run with Hoffman up at the plate. But right now he's 2-2.
Gedman slaps it to the left side, and the count holds. We understand we're experiencing some technical difficulties. We apologize for that, and we'll repair it as soon as possible. We're talking about Gedman with the bat flat. Carl Yastrzemski, of course, especially during the great years of the 60s and early 70s, the bat held extremely high, straight up, the hands high. Now he's brought it down lower. He still holds the hands fairly high, but the bat itself is almost flat behind him.
Well, that's what we talked about adjusting. And Carl has adjusted his whole career, and as you get older and a little bit slower, you make those adjustments.
This is hit into left center field. Bossetti on the run. It's off the monster. Henderson makes the play. Steaming around third is Stapleton. And the Sox have a 6-4 lead on a double by Gedman.
Well, I'll tell you, Ricky Henderson made an outstanding play in backing that ball up and catching the ball, but he made a cardinal sin. He did not pick up the cutoff man. And he threw to second base, and there was no one there allowing Stapleton to score. If he throws to the cutoff man, it's going to be a very close play at home plate. Rich Gedman going with the pitch, a fastball away, driving it off the monster. The wind helping it a little bit, and just doing an outstanding job with the Red Sox and with the hitting streak he has been on.
So So Yastrzemski doubled. Lansford's fly to right advanced the pinch runner Nichols to third. Stapleton dropped one in front of Rudy in right field for a 5-4 lead, and then Gedman, after several foul balls battling McLaughlin, doubles into left center. Stapleton scores, and the hitter is Hoffman. Change up for a strike. Hoffman has just 3 hits in his last 32 at-bats. His average plummeting from 319 to 265 in that span. Up again. This won't be deep enough. Henderson, in fact, has to come in. 2 out.
He jammed himself a little bit, and one of the reasons his average is dropping is because he's jumping out there at the ball, and he jumped out on a changeup and still jammed himself. So when you jump out there, you've got to keep your hands back.
Remind you, we're having apparently some telephone company problems which are affecting our transmission of the game from Fenway Park at this point, working to correct it. Rick Miller, the hitter. I suppose you know that he's married to Carlton Fisk's sister.
You also notice in Rick's stance is much like Evans and Henderson. He's on the toe of his front foot, getting his weight back. And it's a style that you're going to see quite a bit now in baseball, because I think the theory is proving itself to be the correct one. As he rocks a little bit, he gets back on that toe.
Checks his swing and takes it high, 1-1. Miller is an excellent defensive center fielder, perhaps not in the class of the man he replaced, Freddie Lynn, but outstanding nonetheless.
You know, there'll be a lot of people that argue with you on that, because they feel that Rick Miller is fundamentally a better center fielder in positioning players, hitting cutoff men. As far as pure ability, I think Freddie Lynn obviously has the better ability, but I think that Rick Miller is just an outstanding fundamental, as far as a good fundamental center fielder.
In terms of the spectacular play, though, Sal, Lynn has turned in some of the finest I have ever seen. Plays that, even after they're over, you can't believe they occurred.
Well, you know, Paul Blair, in my opinion, for Baltimore, was the best center fielder defensively that I have seen. And Paul Blair didn't make a lot of sensational plays because he was able to get to everything a lot easier than most. And a lot of sensational plays come because of a lack of speed, possibly, or just misplaying the ball.
You like Blair better than Willie?
No.
Miller rifles one. And that is into the corner. Rudy actually cuts it off before it gets there, but it will be extra bases for Miller. It's a double, and the Red Sox have exploded for 3 now in the last half of the 8th for a 7-4 lead. Gedman scoring.
Well, I think it's obvious that Bo McLaughlin has gotten tired. His fastball is not quite having the zip on it that it had before. And Boston's turning on it well, and Rick Miller just turned on a good fastball and drove it into right field.
So I got you to reconsider Paul Blair against Willie Mays?
No, there's never been a Willie Mays, and there never will be. But as far as pure defensive ball player, I would have to rate Paul Blair the best, because he played a very shallow center field, took away the blueprint, and he couldn't hit anything over his head. In fact, he used to say, if you're going to hit it over my head, you better make it a souvenir.
Remy is the hitter. He's 0 for 4, reached on an error once. He's lost 7 points on his average today, down to 264. Foul 1-1. You're talking about Paul Blair playing shallow in center field. That's the way the A's regular center fielder, Dwayne Murphy, who ran into a wall in Detroit and hence is out for a while, that's the way he plays. And he has the ability to go back on a ball better than any present center fielder in the game of baseball. So he takes away the liner on the blue, and he races back on the ball you drive over his head.
So that's the key. Everybody can play shallow, but can you get the ball over your head? And if you can't, there's no percentage in playing shallow. But a Paul Blair or Dwayne Murphy are able to do that, and that's why they're sensational center fielders.
We understand that we have lost our picture once again. Those technical problems continue. We apologize for that. And we'll continue here with a radio-style account as Jerry Remy fouls it back. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Bottom half of the 8th inning, and a 4-all tie has been snapped by a 3-run Red Sox rally. And the picture is back. How about that?
They didn't want you to do radio broadcasting.
handed Bo McLaughlin the ball when this one started, and they said, son, you're here for the duration. Remy bloops one down the line and left. This is big trouble. Oh, what a play by Wayne Gross.
That was an outstanding play. I don't care who's playing third base. You can't make a better play than this. If it's Brooks Robinson or whoever, you just can't make a better play than this. This is looks like a sure base hit. It's very difficult to catch any ball over your shoulder, back to the infield. That's just an outstanding play, and I keep repeating it.
No overstatement. That is one of the finest infield plays I have ever seen. One of the best plays by an infielder on a pop-up I have ever seen. An inning that began with a Carl Yastrzemski double, a hustle double, winds up a 3-run Red Sox brave. Now can Bob Stanley protect it in the ninth? He leads 7-4.
Joe Garagiola with Tony Kubek here in Atlanta, and there's the score, 5-2. You see Mike Krutko in your picture. He was just replaced on the mound by Ed Farmer. Krutko, who looked like he was going to have trouble, did battle, and he's just been relieved. Watch this play. Maddox of the Phillies hits this ball. This is in the 8th inning. Claudell Washington appears to make the catch. I say appears. Now, when that ball drops, they call it a no catch. Maddox rounds second. He's going to try for third, and he thinks he's going to make it. Off the bag, and he's out. We've had a lot of unusual plays here. We've had one home run. That by Murphy ties him for the league lead with Kingman, but it's 5-2. Phillies in front, bottom of the ninth.
Thank you, Joe. And here it's the top of the ninth. Mike Heath, who has doubled twice and caught looking his last time at bat, leads it off. Wayne Gross is on deck, and Rick Bossetti is scheduled to follow. Stanley comes 3/4. Bossetti taps it foul, 1-1. I'm sorry, Heath taps it foul.
Bob Stanley is we can't say it enough, has just done a bull of a job out here. He's just taken the bull by the horn, stopped Oakland from scoring, has taken command of this game, and he's really kept Boston in this ball game and given them the opportunity to finally score a few runs for him in the 8th inning.
If he gets out of this inning, he's our MVP. What do you say?
No doubt. He has been the reason that they're here.
Ahead of Heath, 1-2. Boy, is that tough when he comes from that position on a right-handed hitter.
I'm telling you from experience, he is very nasty to hit off. Now, he threw that ball over the top and trying to fool Heath. In fact, if it wasn't a little bit high, he would have had strike 3.
I think he froze him because that's the kind of pitch normally you'd swing at to protect the plate with 2 strikes. Heath just couldn't pull the trigger, but luckily for him, it missed. Deep center field. Miller on the track, and there. Right in front of the 379 sign.
I thought that ball was way up on the wall, and I don't know if there's a swirling wind. The flag's not moving much, but the ball seemed to die as Miller just camped under it at the last minute right near the wall. As you see him going by, I thought he was going to look up on the wall to catch it, and he stumbles just a little bit, and he makes a nice catch.
Talking about nice catches, here's Wayne Gross, who made an absolutely brilliant play to end the Red Sox 8th from his third base spot for Oakland.
Well, Wayne started off in the major leagues as a first baseman, and they moved him over to third, and he might not be the most graceful player, but he does the job well, and he's a very gutty ball player.
Gross has had only one at-bat. This one is drilled into right center way, way back, but again on the track. It's Evans to take it.
Well, we're seeing Bob Stanley running out of gas just a little bit. The ball not sinking quite as much as it normally does. He's just throwing fastballs, making him hit the ball because they need base runners, and he's not going to walk anybody. And the hitters know he's just going to throw fastballs, but they're hitting it to the deep part of the ballpark.
Attention, please.
So Heath drove Miller to the wall. Gross sends Evans to the track. 2 long outs. Bossetti is called back. Danny Meyer bats for him, and the former Mariner takes the ball. 1-0 pitch. Ground ball to Remy. What a job by Stanley. The Red Sox win it. 1-2-3 for the A's in the top half of the ninth. And there's Yaz coming out to congratulate Stanley, who gets the win in relief of for Bob Ojeda. McLaughlin, the loser, is 0-2. Stanley is now 4-1. A look at the final totals, and we'll come back to Fenway Park in just a minute.